What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
14 et. Chapter 411 Together. Advertisement. The two of us were seriously injured just now, and there is no way to work together with you. Even with joint efforts, there is no way to get cheap from Monk. Instead, he was wounded by Monk. So, the two of us should take a break first to recover our strength. Quote. You two fight it first. If we can gain the upper hand, then the two of us will intervene again. And if you two can't beat Monk, then let's take this opportunity and leave quickly. After hearing Kaido's words, the Soul Envoy snorted coldly. Then he turned his head to look at Charlotte Linlin. Then he asked Charlotte Linlin, Charlotte Linlin, what do you think? Should I retreat, or should I continue to fight her? After hearing the inquiry from the Soul Messenger, Charlotte Linlin also said in a cold voice. I'm at odds with Monk, so there's no retreat. If I don't kill him today, I won't leave. Quote. After hearing what Charlotte Linlin said, the Soul Messenger couldn't help giving Charlotte Linlin a thumbs up. Then the two also looked at Monk with fierce eyes. Advertisement. Monk also hooked his hands towards the two in front at this moment. Then he said mockingly, since you want to besiege me, then act quickly. I can't wait any longer. Quote. After saying this, Monk also laughed arrogantly. The Soul Messenger and Charlotte Linlin are also dispatched instantly at this moment. It was as if the two of them had turned into lightning. The air beside the two of them was scraped by the bodies of the two of them, making bursts of ear-piercing sounds. Monk was also smiling while fighting with the two of them. I saw the spear of the Soul Messenger stabbing out at this time. Monk also tapped lightly with the back of the long knife, and the opponent's long spear landed hard. And Monk also took advantage of the situation and stepped on the tip of the spear. Then he cut out with a knife, and cut off a piece of the opponent's sleeve. The Soul Messenger also quickly dodged the blow, and then looked at Monk in horror. Monk also continued to attack, and the Soul Messenger also yelled at Charlotte Linlin, support. Then he kept retreating backwards. Advertisement. 0 for flowers. Monk, on the other hand, has been following the Soul Messenger and attacking him. And Charlotte Linlin also slashed out with a long knife. Monk twisted his body at this moment, as if he had no bones, and escaped the opponent's slash. Continued to rush towards the Soul Messenger. Then the knife pierced the Soul Messenger's abdomen again. After receiving such an injury, the Soul Messenger also felt very ashamed. He also suddenly thought of the injury he suffered before. The injury Monk inflicted on him before was exactly the same as the injury at this time. Not even the location has changed. He is also starting to fear now. And Charlotte Linlin is also fearless at this moment, constantly slashing at Monk. And the few clouds transformed by his soul also began to spray lightning and flames towards Monk. Monk is also like chasing flies, extinguishing all the lightning and flames. Then he rushed forward and slashed at Charlotte Linlin's neck with a knife. The red hair also moved in response to the sound at this moment, and the long knife stood in front of him, blocking Monk's blow. Advertisement. Chapter 412 Escape Again. Advertisement. Although, he doesn't want to continue fighting Monk. But you can't just watch your companion die. If you just watched your companion die like this, it would be a bit too cold-blooded. Then the redhead also confronted Monk while talking to Monk. We will leave immediately, can you save face? After hearing what the redhead said, Monk laughed out loud and said, Chichi, twice. Then he taunted the few people in front of him. You are so beautiful. In the previous time, he came to me aggressively, wanting to shout and kill me. And then seeing the loss, I started to give you face and said that I wanted to leave. This is really unreasonable. If you lose, you can leave, but if I lose, can I keep my life? Monk's series of questions made the red-haired man speechless. The redhead also froze in place in embarrassment. Then he also gritted his teeth, and when he exerted force, Monk was also pushed back by it. The Soul Messenger also threw the spear viciously at the side. Advertisement. The spear was also blessed with the power of the soul by the Soul Messenger, and pierced towards Monk. Monk just dodged lightly and avoided the opponent's attack. Then he wanted to take this opportunity to beat the dog in the water and kill all these people. But at this moment, the Soul Messenger also jumped up again. The corner of Monk's mouth also curled up instantly, and then he spoke loudly. Just waiting for your move. Then Monk condensed his knife energy and slashed out with a single knife. A knife arc also appeared in the air ahead, and that space door was also chopped to pieces by Monk. Then Monk also looked at the Soul Messenger fiercely. Then he spoke to the Soul Messenger. Last time, I let you escape this time. I will not give you any more chances. If you want to escape, it is impossible, and you can only die here. Quote. After hearing Monk's words, the Soul Messenger also showed a mocking smile. Then he stretched out his finger and pointed towards Monk's back. Monk also turned around in doubt, and then he was shocked to find that Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others had already left. 0. Advertisement. After Monk turned his head, he also saw the back of the Soul Messenger. At this time, the Soul Envoy walked slowly towards the space door. Monk also roared, "You're scumbag." After saying this, Monk attached the power of Devil Fruit to the long knife. Then he threw the long knife fiercely. Hearing a muffled hum, the space door also disappeared. Monk also gritted his teeth angrily. It's not that he didn't expect that these guys escaped again. Afterwards, Monk also made up his mind that next time, these guys must not be allowed to escape again. As the saying goes, there is no repeating again and again. If they let them escape 5.0 for the third time, Monk might as well find a tree and kill him. And the soul messenger also fell to the ground again. Kaido, Charlotte Linlin and others were also panting against the rocks, looking at each other, and they could see each other's embarrassment. I only heard that the soul messenger also spoke to several people at this time. I'm too weak now, you pull out the long knife from my back. Then wrap it up. Advertisement. Chapter 413 Escape in Embarrassment. Advertisement. If I continue to let the long knife stick in my back, I will probably lose too much blood and die. After hearing the words of the soul messenger, the red hair also stood up hastily and came to the side of the soul messenger. Then he began to help the soul messenger and drew out the long knife. As the long knife was drawn out, the soul messenger's wound also continuously sprayed blood. The red hair also hurriedly wrapped up the wound with a bandage. The soul messenger is not a painless machine. After the long knife was withdrawn from his body, he gritted his teeth in pain, and the cold sweat broke out on his head. But in order to save face, he didn't dare to shout out. After all 10 wounds on the soul messenger were bandaged, he also slowly sat on the stone. Said to Charlotte Linlin and Kaido and others. If it goes on like this, we won't be able to get past Monk at all. Instead, he has been suffering from Monk. If it continues like this, I don't want to fight it anymore. If you want you to fight, fight yourself. Quote. Advertisement. Hearing that the soul messenger wanted to retreat, Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others also advised the soul messenger one after another. And during this period, they kept talking about Monk's hatefulness. Then he brought the topic to the wound of the soul messenger, and began to say that Monk was too hateful. And what he did was provoking the soul messenger. Otherwise, the two injuries of the soul messenger would not appear in one place. The soul envoy also became more and more angry as he listened to it, and he was not ready to continue to compete with Monk just now. But under the continuous lobbying of several people, they also became angry and prepared to fight Monk to the death. Afterwards, the more he thought about it, the more angry he became, and he also stood up, wanting to find Monk to settle the score. But Charlotte Linlin also hurriedly stopped the soul messenger. The soul messenger also looked at Charlotte Linlin suspiciously. Then he asked Charlotte Linlin, "Don't you hate Monk? I hate him right now. I want to eat him alive right now." Quote. After hearing the words of the soul messenger, Charlotte Linlin also sighed helplessly. Advertisement. Then he spoke to the soul messenger. I hate Monk too, but so what? Could it be that you can kill him by going hastily at this time? Don't say that you have been injured at this time, just say that you are not injured. Can you beat him? All of us can't beat him together. Could it be that you alone can defeat him? After saying this, Charlotte Linlin also showed a helpless expression. After hearing what Charlotte Linlin said, the Soul Envoy 413 also reacted instantly. Then he sighed helplessly, and asked Charlotte Linlin and others. Then tell me, what should I do? After finishing these words, he also waited for the replies from several people. Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others also looked at me and I looked at yours, constantly deliberating their words in their hearts. After thinking for a while, Charlotte Linlin spoke forcefully to the Soul Messenger. Aren't you quite powerful in New World? Then you might as well find some helpers in the New World. Advertisement. Chapter 414 Recruiting Subordinates. Advertisement. Then occupy this New World, thereby ensuring that the strong ones in the New World are at your disposal. In that case, we can fight Monk together. In this way, we can have a great chance of winning. Quote. After saying this, Charlotte Linlin also smiled slightly towards the Soul Messenger. After hearing what Charlotte Linlin said, the Soul Messenger nodded heavily. I have to say that the Soul Messenger is really thoughtful. Then Monk also spoke to Charlotte Linlin. Okay, since that's the case, then in the next step, I'm going to arrange this matter. You three don't go either. The subordinate who assists me by my side and lets me recruit all the powerful people in New World. After hearing what the Soul Messenger said, Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and the others nodded repeatedly. They also wish for it. The Soul Envoy was also extremely happy when he saw this, and then he was also ready to set off. But Charlotte Linlin and others stopped him again. This made the Soul Messenger very helpless. Advertisement. Then the Soul Messenger said helplessly to several people. What are you thinking? Don't you want me to recruit those strong men from New World? Why are you coming to stop me one after another? Backquote. After saying this, he also looked at Yuan Luo Linlin and the others in doubt, waiting for their answer. After hearing the inquiry from the Soul Messenger, Kaido also sighed helplessly. Then he spoke forcefully to the Soul Messenger. Just relying on your current embarrassed appearance, go to recruit the strong people of New World. Who would like to work with you? If we are not ridiculed by the other party at that time, the other party will not let us go. So, let's look for those New World powerhouses after the injury has healed. At that time, try to subdue them quickly, so as to ensure that Monk will be defeated. Quote. After saying this, he also smiled at the Soul Messenger. After hearing Kaido's words, the Soul Messenger also thought for a while. Then he nodded heavily. In this way, everyone began to practice quietly. Advertisement. And Monk is also constantly wandering around the islands. His current idea is to find it in the Vice Admiral Soul Messenger and Charlotte Linlin in the New World. Keeping these people, Monk is also a little upset. Monk would feel uneasy if he didn't eradicate them all. In this way, under Monk's constant search, he did not find Charlotte Linlin, the Soul Messenger and others. But they found an extremely rich island. The island is almost the same size as the mainland. After arriving here, Monk also received a warm welcome. Monk also inquired about it, and then he knew that the island was called Xuanwu Monohao Island. The people on this Xuanwu Island come from all directions. Therefore, they are also very welcome to outsiders. Outsiders are not excluded. Monk is also very comfortable after arriving here. I didn't feel there was anything wrong here. Then Monk also temporarily lived here. The customs and habits here are also very different. Some people are very taboo about one thing. Advertisement. Chapter 415 Prevent Monk from going rampant. Advertisement. And other people are very fond of this thing. This kind of cultural collision also caused the people on this Xuanwu Island to have disputes every day. But because the law and order on Xuanwu Island is very good, these people only verbally argue a few times, and it's nothing. Monk is also very satisfied with this. Because he was right to come to Xuanwu Island. In this way, Monk temporarily forgot about Charlotte Linlin and the Soul Messenger. And Charlotte Linlin and the Soul Messenger have not forgotten Monk. They also want to calculate Monk wholeheartedly, wanting to kill this guy Monk. Prevent Monk from continuing to be rampant. After the strength of several people recovered almost, the Soul Messenger was also the first to propose. Let a few people follow him to find the strong man in New World. Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others also did not refute. Several people made a decision in this way, ready to act. In this way, the Soul Messenger brought Charlotte Linlin to a place he was more familiar with. Advertisement. This is where he stayed before, and he still has some fame here. Therefore, the strong here also respect the Soul Messenger very much. After the Soul Messenger told them about their intentions in the future, these strong men also expressed their willingness to take refuge in the Soul Messenger. The Soul Messenger is also very happy. Then let these strong men wait here first. After he gathers all the other strong men, everyone will act together again. After seeing this scene, Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others were also extremely happy. Before, they thought that the Soul Messenger was just exaggerating. Unexpectedly, the Soul Messenger really has some tricks. He was able to take all the technologies of these strong men under his command just by meeting them face to face. Afterwards, Charlotte Linlin, the red hair and others continued to compliment the Soul Messenger. The Soul Messenger is also extremely happy. Then he also said that what he showed around him was only superficial. Next he will definitely make Charlotte Linlin and Kaido shine. After hearing the words of the Soul Messenger, Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others were also extremely happy. Advertisement. Afterwards, everyone waited expectantly for the Soul Messenger, leading them to continue to recruit the strong men of the New World. But then, they hit a wall. When they came to an island, the New World powerhouses on this island also didn't like to see the Soul Messenger very much. After seeing the Soul Messenger, everyone kept driving the Soul Messenger away. And it was as if he had seen the God of Plague, and he extremely disliked the Soul Messenger. The Soul Messenger was also confused by Zhang. He didn't know what he did wrong. Why did these New World powerhouses sneer at him so much? Then he was about to turn around and leave. But at this moment, Charlotte Linlin also spoke to the Soul Messenger. Since you have come here, why did you leave here? Could it be that they are disrespectful to you at this time, so you have to follow their thoughts? After hearing Charlotte Linlin's words, the Soul Messenger also came to his senses instantly, and then he spoke. If you hadn't reminded me, I would have left in despair. After your reminder, I also understand what to do. Quote. Advertisement. Chapter 416 We don't welcome you. Advertisement. After finishing these words, the Soul Envoy also stepped forward. When he came to the village ahead, he also took out his weapon. Then he slapped it hard towards the ground. He also shot a deep pit on the ground with his weapon. And the resulting noise also attracted the attention of the strong in this village. Afterwards, these strong men also dispatched one after another, surrounding the Soul Envoys. He only heard a New World powerhouse speaking coldly to the Soul Messenger. What the hell are you guys doing? Why do you come here to make trouble for no reason? Didn't we make it clear to you before? You are not welcome. Why are you still so shameless, staying here? After hearing what the other party said, the Soul Messenger also said coldly. I came here today not to discuss with you, but to order you. Next, you should quickly surrender to me, and then fight against Monk with me. If you don't surrender, then don't blame me for killing you all. Quote. After saying this, the Soul Messenger also snorted coldly. Advertisement. And those New World powerhouses are not to be outdone. They are also extremely confident because of their large number of people. Everyone also shot together at this moment, launching an attack on the Soul Messenger. After the Soul Messenger fought Monk twice, his combat literacy improved a lot. He also had an advantage when dealing with these strong men with very poor fighting skills. With a few strokes, he knocked down all these New World powerhouses to the ground. Then he aimed the weapon at the head of a New World strong man. He asked the other party coldly. Give you another chance now, do you choose to surrender to me? After hearing the words of the Soul Messenger, this New World powerhouse sighed helplessly. Then he spoke. You have already used my life to force me to make a choice. If I don't agree to surrender to you again, I must be dead. So, I can only accept my fate. Quote. After finishing these words, he also let out a long sigh. After hearing the other party's words, the Soul Messenger also laughed out loud. Advertisement. Zero looking for flowers. Although the other party did not directly answer the Soul Messenger's question. But the Soul Messenger already knew the answer. Afterwards, he also patted the shoulder of this new world powerhouse, and then said sonorously. He who understands current affairs is a hero. Don't worry, as long as you obey my orders, I won't treat you badly. Quote. 0. After this sentence was finished, the Soul Messenger also burst out laughing. Afterwards, the Soul Envoy also asked the strong man of this village to stay here. Then he took Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others, and rushed to other places. In this way, after dozens of days of busy work, the Soul Messenger also brought most of the powerful people in the new world under his command. Then just prepare to shoot Monk. After all the arrangements were ready, the Soul Messenger also asked Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others. Everyone, should we start now? After finishing these words, he also waited for the answers from several people. After Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and the others looked at each other, they all nodded. Advertisement. Chapter 417. Advertisement. Then Charlotte Linlin also spoke forcefully to the Soul Messenger. Next, it's time for us to go on a crusade against Monk. Otherwise, this guy Monk will definitely continue to be arrogant. And will always think that our strength is not enough, so he will continue to look down on us. We must impress him this time. And he can also take advantage of this opportunity to kill him with 170. Quote. After hearing what Charlotte Linlin and others said, the Soul Messenger nodded heavily. Then he waved his hand, signaling those New World powerhouses behind him to act together with him. Many powerful people in New World also took action one after another, following behind the Soul Messenger and others, moving forward. When they arrived at the place where Monk lived before, they also faced an extremely embarrassing thing. That is, they didn't even see Monk. This made everyone feel a little overwhelmed. At this time, Charlotte Linlin also spoke helplessly to the Soul Messenger. Did you investigate clearly and act rashly like this? Advertisement. After saying this, she also sighed helplessly. After hearing what Charlotte Linlin said, the Soul Messenger scratched the back of his head in embarrassment. Then he spoke to Charlotte Linlin. That's right, I sent someone to investigate. Monk is staying here, could it be that this guy disappeared all of a sudden? The red hair next to him also came forward at this time, and then he spoke. You said, is it possible that Monk took advantage of the night and left quietly? In that case, it is indeed possible that it will be silent and will not be discovered by anyone. It's normal that the people you sent here didn't notice it. Quote. Charlotte Linlin also nodded slightly at this time, and then looked at the Soul Messenger. After hearing what the red hair said, the Soul Envoy thought for a while, and then spoke. If this is the case, then you all wait here for a while. After I investigate clearly, this matter will definitely be resolved. Quote. After saying this, he also patted his chest. Said that I will definitely not make mistakes again in the future. 0. Advertisement. After hearing what the Soul Messenger said, Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others nodded their heads one after another. Afterwards, it was also waiting for the Soul Messenger to investigate. Then they can set off together. After continuous investigation, the Soul Messenger finally came to the place where Monk was at this time. Then everyone began to rush towards Xuanwu Island. After reaching the periphery of Xuanwu Island, the Soul Envoy stopped. And those New World powerhouses behind him stopped there as if they had discussed it in advance. This scene also puzzled Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others. Then Kaido asked the Soul Messenger. Soul Envoy 3.5, why don't you continue to bring your troops forward? Why do you have to stay here? How far is it from the place called Xuanwu Island? Aren't we here to hunt Monk? If you don't go to the island, what are you going to crusade for? After saying this, Kaido also looked at the Soul Messenger seriously, waiting for the Soul Messenger's answer. Advertisement. Chapter 418 Don't Conflict. Advertisement. After hearing Kaido's words, the Soul Messenger also showed a wry smile. Then he explained to Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others. You don't know, this Xuanwu Island also has a very background. The person after Xuanwu Island is not something we can mess with casually. If we break the rules, something will be wrong. Quote. Charlotte Linlin and others also asked the Soul Messenger in doubt, asking the Soul Messenger to explain the rules of Xuanwu Island. After deliberating his words, the Soul Messenger spoke forcefully to several people. The first rule of Xuanwu Island is that there should be no conflicts. If there is a conflict, it must be resolved off the island. 10. If there is any conflict after going to Xuanwu Island, they will be punished by the guards here. And the people in these guards are also very powerful. In order to avoid trouble, so we still watch outside, don't go inside to make trouble. After hearing the words of the Soul Messenger, Charlotte Linlin said helplessly. How are we going to find the Monk if we don't go in? Do you think we can just wait until Monk fails? Advertisement. If Monk never leaves, are we going to stay on this ship forever? I'd say we should go in and find Monk. After meeting Monk, Monk knew what we wanted to do. In that case, if you invite him out again, you will be able to handle the problem well. Quote. After saying this, he also looked at the Soul Messenger, waiting for the Soul Messenger to make a decision. After hearing what Charlotte Linlin said, the Soul Messenger nodded heavily. Then he spoke. In that case, let's set off immediately. In this way, under the leadership of the Soul Messenger, Charlotte Linlin and others, the strong men of the New World went up to Xuanwu Island. Then they also ran into members of the guards on Xuanwu Island. After some cross-examination, it was also determined that several people were harmless. Then it was released. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief, and then began to search for Monk on Xuanwu Island. Monk is also very annoying to Charlotte Linlin and the Soul Messenger. They are also determined to never let Monk go this time. Advertisement. Because they were hostile by many people in the process of searching for Monk. And there were many troubles during this period. Therefore, their hatred for Monk has grown even bigger. They also decided to settle new and old accounts with Monk in the future. At that time, Monk will definitely pay a heavy price. Monk also had nothing to do, so he started wandering on 29th Street. Then I also saw so many people. This made Monk very puzzled. Then he also walked forward, wanting to join in the fun. Then I saw the Soul Messenger leading the way. This made Monk frown instantly. Then he thought for a while in his heart, and then he understood the purpose of the other party's visit. In order not to cause trouble for Xuanwu Island, Monk took the initiative to go forward. The Soul Messenger is still looking for Monk's trace. When he turned his head and saw Monk, he patted Kaido's shoulder excitedly. Advertisement. Chapter 419 The Fiendish Expression. Advertisement. At this time, Kaido and others also turned their heads to look in the direction of the Soul Messenger's finger. Then saw Monk. At this moment, everyone showed fierce expressions. The guards on Xuanwu Island also rushed out at this moment and surrounded everyone. Because just now, they also felt the malice from the Soul Messenger and Charlotte Linlin and others. This had to make them vigilant. The Soul Messenger, Charlotte Linlin and others also expressed helplessly to each other that they did not want to do bad things. It was just a matter of feeling. Because Monk is their enemy. After hearing the explanations of several people, the members of the guards also left here in doubt. Then before leaving, he also reminded him. If these people want to make trouble, they can give it a try. At that time, the consequences will be borne by several people themselves. The Soul Messenger, Charlotte Linlin and others also expressed that they would never do anything wrong. And also guarantee that in the future will be safe and secure. Afterwards, the Soul Messenger also slowly walked in front of Monk. Advertisement. At this time, Monk couldn't help but sneered at the Soul Messenger. It's impossible for you to come to Xuanwu Island for no reason like this. You have come to find me. The Soul Messenger nodded heavily after hearing Monk's inquiry. Then he spoke to Monk. It seems that you still have a little self-knowledge. I came here to avenge you. If you dare, leave Xuanwu Island with us. Then we fight. Quote. When the time comes, whoever wins will lose, only the dead will live. Let's talk after the battle. I don't know if you have the guts. After saying this, the Soul Messenger also looked at Monk with a playful face. After hearing the words of the Soul Messenger, Monk also sneered. You don't need to use aggressive tactics there, even if I don't need you to be sarcastic, I will go to you. Before, I was going to find you and kill you. Advertisement. But you are hiding too well, so I couldn't find it no matter how hard I searched. So I'm going to stay in one place and take a rest. It just so happens that this Xuanwu Island is also very good, and I am very satisfied with it, so I stayed here. Quote. Backquote unexpectedly, I am very happy that you came to find me today. This is called breaking through the iron shoes and finding nowhere to find it. It takes no effort to get it. Quote. After hearing what Monk said, the Soul Messenger also waved his hand. Then he spoke to Monk. Don't talk to me about it, just say you can't leave. Nagging and chattering are too annoying. Quote. After hearing the words of the Soul Messenger, who got the money, Monk also said with a sneer. Since you have talked to this point, if I don't fight with you again, it will definitely make you look down upon. Let's go, and then I will accompany you on the journey. Quote. After saying this, Monk took the lead to walk outside Xuanwu Island. And the Soul Messenger was also extremely happy after seeing Monk's actions. Then he hurriedly followed behind Monk and walked out. Advertisement. Chapter 420. Advertisement. Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others were even happier. They also already thought that they and others were sure to win. After everyone left Xuanwu Island and came to a deserted island, Monk looked at these people in front of him with his arms crossed and a sneer on his face. Then he said in a cold voice. Seeing that you are all ready, then I don't have to hide anymore. Next, I will kill all of you, so don't beg me for mercy before you die. After saying this, Monk also rushed forward quickly. Charlotte Linlin, the Soul Messenger and others also wanted to ridicule Monk a few words. But I didn't expect that Monk didn't play his cards according to the routine. Rushing forward so quickly also made them a little bit too late to react. Then they hurriedly responded to Monk's attack. I saw Charlotte Linlin also slashed out with the big knife. The armament Haki on top of the broadsword also sets off the long knife with added sharpness. Seeing this, Monk also had armament Haki attached to his hands and weapon. Advertisement. Then the weapons of the two collided together. Immediately there was a burst of violent airflow, blowing away all the dead branches, rotten leaves and gravel around him. At this moment, the corner of Monk's mouth is also slightly raised. And Charlotte Linlin laughed wildly, Bob. Then he slashed forward one after another. And Monk too, coping. The two also fought dozens of moves in an instant. Afterwards, the Soul Messenger also took this opportunity to attack Monk. The Soul Messenger's right foot also turned black, and then he kicked it towards Monk. Monk stretched out his right leg, and then resisted the Soul Messenger's attack all at once. Then Monk said to the Soul Messenger in a cold voice. After such a long time of cultivation, your strength is still so weak. This foot is so soft that I can't feel any strength at all. Quote. After saying this, Monk also burst out laughing. After hearing Monk's words, the Soul Messenger also snorted coldly. Advertisement. Then he kicked several feet one after another. In his opinion, this guy Meng is only into known. There are so many people besieging Monk on his side, if Monk can still defeat his own people, then it would be too wasteful to wait for others. The Soul Messenger doesn't think he is a waste, so in his opinion, Monk is just putting on a show there. At this time Monk must have been messed up, but in order to save face, he had to pretend. And Charlotte Linlin is also constantly assisting the Soul Messenger. Kaido and the red-haired duo also rushed forward from time to time, launching an attack on Monk. Although Monk was able to deal with it, he was a little embarrassed for a while. After seeing this scene from the side, Charlotte Linlin was also extremely happy. Just listen to him speaking loudly to the Soul Messenger at this time. Soul Messenger, let's stop hiding things. Now use all your strength. I think this guy is almost at the point where he can't fight back. Next, you only need to work harder to eliminate Monk. Quote. Hearing what Charlotte Linlin said, not only the Soul Messenger, but even Kaido and others became excited. Advertisement. Chapter 421. A little tired. Advertisement. They also used the power of Devil Fruit one after another. Then they attacked Monk fiercely one after another. Monk is also helpless, he has fought against these people before. And it is also possible to beat all these people away. But today these people have such an advantage, it really shouldn't be. For some reason, Monk is actually a little tired now. Then Monk thought secretly in his heart. Could it be that on Xuanwu Island, I have been lazy for a few days, so that my strength has not improved? However, Charlotte Linlin, the Soul Messenger and others got such a big improvement in strength because of intensive training. Comparing these two, will make the other party so powerful. After thinking of this, Monk also sighed helplessly. Afterwards, he bent down and avoided the knife attack from Charlotte Linlin. This saber air also brushed along the tip of Monk's nose. Monk obviously felt a bit of warmth above the tip of his nose, and then something like water flowed from his nose to his mouth. Monk knew that it must be that the opponent's knife chi had scratched his nose, so that he was hurt. Advertisement. Then Monk also frowned, and looked at Charlotte Linlin, the Soul Messenger and others. At this time, Charlotte Linlin, the Soul Messenger and others were also extremely rampant. They also kept laughing at Monk there, thinking that Monk was just a waste. There is nothing to be afraid of at all. Monk also waved his hands after hearing the words of several people. Then he spoke to several people. It seems that we can't continue to fight with you today. If I continue to fight, I will definitely suffer. Quote. After saying this, Monk also looked at Charlotte Linlin and the Soul Messenger with a half smile. After hearing Monk's words, Charlotte Linlin, the Soul Messenger and others secretly thought it was bad. They also vaguely guessed that this guy Monk might want to run away. Then the Soul Messenger also rushed forward quickly, trying to stop Monk's actions. But Monk was one step ahead. I saw that he was also waving his hand at this time, and the whole person disappeared there. 0 for flowers. 0. Advertisement. When the Soul Messenger came to the place where Monk was standing before, he was also very angry and began to curse Monk non-stop. Charlotte Linlin and others also frowned at this time. They also didn't expect that Monk would be such a chicken thief, he would run away as soon as he said it. But even in anger, Monk's escape has also become a reality. There is no need for others to think about this matter anymore. After that, several people also looked at me and I looked at you, which was extremely embarrassing. Then Charlotte Linlin also walked to the side of the Soul Messenger, and then spoke to the Soul Messenger. You don't have to be angry either. This guy Monk can't run very far, except for the new world, he can stay in the original world. In this new world we look for it, if we can't find Monk. Just go to Monk's underwater world and the Ghost Gang to have a look. I believe that this guy will definitely stop at these few places. Quote. Kaido also stepped forward at this time and patted the shoulder of the Soul Messenger. Then he said 10 to the Soul Messenger. Advertisement. Chapter 422. Don't be angry. Advertisement. Well, you don't have to be angry. Monk escaped from you once, and you were so angry. Then if you were replaced by Monk, wouldn't you be mad? After hearing Kaido's words, the Soul Messenger also thought for a moment. Then he suddenly remembered that he had escaped from Monk twice before. After thinking of this, he also instantly became happy. 387. Then he straightened his back slowly, and said to Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others. Next, let's go find Monk. I have some contacts in the new world, I can come and find Monk. And you can just lay hands behind me. But when going to the original world, I need your help. I don't know much about it. Quote. After saying this, the Soul Messenger also looked at Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others with burning eyes. After Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others heard the words of the Soul Messenger, it was you who looked at me and I who looked at you. Then they all laughed. Then he patted his chest and assured the Soul Messenger that he would definitely help. Advertisement. And it also shows that Monk is also their enemy. They hated Monk, and they wanted Monk to die instantly. How could it not help? After getting replies from several people, the Soul Messenger also heaved a sigh of relief. Then, facing those New World powerhouses behind him, he began to search for Monk's trace. And Monk also left New World and returned to the Ghost Gate Gang. After returning to the Ghost Gate Gang, Monk also found the Celestial Dragons. After seeing that the Celestial Dragons managed the Ghost Gate Gang in an orderly manner, Monk nodded in satisfaction. Because Monk came back this time, no one notified. So that makes the Celestial Dragons unaware that Monk is back. And Monk stood behind Celestial Dragons also did not notice it. When he turned his head to take a look, he also saw Monk. Then Celestial Dragons was also extremely excited, and said to Monk with a smile on his face. Monk, when did you come back? Why didn't you tell me? If you tell me, I will definitely bring someone to meet you. 0 inches. Advertisement. After hearing what Celestial Dragons said, Monk also waved his hand. Then he said helplessly to Celestial Dragons. As a defeated general who was driven back, how can you welcome him? It would be a joke if you let them greet you. Quote. After saying this, Monk also spread his hands, expressing that he was very disrespectful. After hearing Monk's words, Celestial Dragons also thought secretly in their hearts. Something must have happened, and some formidable enemy defeated Monk. Otherwise, Monk wouldn't have said such a thing. Afterwards, Celestial Dragons also deliberated about the words, and asked Monk. Master Monk, what happened to 1.8? Can you tell me something? If you tell me, I will definitely bring someone here to help you deal with this matter. After saying this, Celestial Dragons also patted his chest. Then he looked at Monk seriously, expecting Monk to tell him something. After hearing what Celestial Dragons said, Monk smiled helplessly. Advertisement. Chapter 423. Advertisement. Then he spoke to Celestial Dragons. Since you want to know, let me tell you. After hearing what Monk said, Celestial Dragons also pricked up their ears and looked at Monk seriously. After deliberating his words, Monk spoke forcefully. After I killed Charlotte Linlin and Kaido, I was also planning to go to New World. You should know about this. But when I arrived in New World, I found out by accident that the 3 guys, Charlotte Linlin and Kaido, were still alive. Then I also found the Soul Messenger after continuous exploration. Quote. Then it was discovered that it was the Soul Messenger who revived Charlotte Linlin and others. 10 So I fought with him and tried to kill him. Then follow the clues to find Charlotte Linlin and others, so as to kill them all. Quote. But the Soul Messenger is also an extremely chicken thief, this guy can use space secrets. Run away twice in my hand. By the time of the 3rd time, he was also fully prepared to take all the powerful players from the New World under his command. Advertisement. Then they began to besiege me, and I was also lost, so I fled back in embarrassment. Quote. After hearing what Monk said, Celestial Dragons became angry instantly. He only heard him speaking forcefully to Monk at this moment. Master Monk, don't worry. At that time, as long as the Soul Messenger dares to come to our side, I will definitely lead someone to kill them all. To avenge you. Quote. After saying this, Celestial Dragons also patted his chest, expressing that what he said was very sincere. After hearing what Celestial Dragons said, Monk smiled slightly. Then he patted Celestial Dragons on the shoulder, and said to Celestial Dragons. I feel like the chances of that are pretty slim. Because of the Soul Messenger guy, will not necessarily come to our world. He's had a good time at New World, so there's no need to come here. And New World is his home field. Quote. And this is my home court. If he dares to come, then it will show that this guy is just a fool. After saying this, Monk also burst out laughing. Advertisement. Celestial Dragons laughed along with Monk when they heard the words. After the 2 finished laughing, Monk also spoke to the Wylong people again. Okay, I won't bother you here. I am also very relieved that the Ghost Gate Gang will be handled by you. Next, I'm going to take a look at the underwater world. I believe that the underwater world will definitely be very prosperous. Quote. After saying this sentence, Monk also left the Ghost Gate Gang without any expectations. Then they rushed to the underwater world. After reaching the underwater world, Monk also met the Warden. After seeing Monk, the Warden also showed the same expression as Celestial Dragons, and they were all very shocked. Monk waved his hand slightly at this time. Then there was no mention of New World. Instead, he asked, and the Warden took a look at what happened here. After hearing Monk's inquiry, the Warden was also in the slightest panic. Because he also managed the underwater world extremely well when Monk was away. Advertisement. Chapter 424 I will give you 2 rewards. Advertisement. The powerhouses here have also become extremely powerful. Whitebeard and Garp and others have become more powerful. If everyone joins forces to attack the leader of the world government this time, the leader of the world government will definitely be easily defeated. Monk nodded in satisfaction after listening for a while. Then he spoke to the Warden. Yes, it seems that you and the Celestial Dragons have been very concerned about me since I was not here for a while. This time, the 2 of you will manage the Ghost Gate Gang and the underwater world properly. After I deal with the Soul Messenger and others, I will give you 2 rewards. Quote. After saying this, Monk also patted the Warden on the shoulder. Then he turned around and left. After the Warden watched Monk leave, he continued to deal with the affairs of the underwater world. In this way, Monk also randomly found a place to live here. Then he began to train intensively. He felt that he had been too negligent recently, so that he wasted a lot of time. This is really something that should not be done. Advertisement. People are very lazy, because a short break will change the original plan. And slowly, this plan will disappear. It's time to make plans again. Monk also made up his mind, this time he must train well and become extremely powerful. At that time, not to mention the Soul Messenger, even if the Soul Messenger joins hands with Charlotte Linlin and others to attack him, he will not have any fear. After making up his mind, Monk began to train non-stop. 24 hours a day, Monk eats, drinks, and sleeps. Use 13 hours for training. This kind of high-intensity training, according to ordinary people, must have been unbearable for a long time. But Monk's physical fitness is extremely strong. Even if he spends 24 hours a day on training, Monk doesn't panic at all. But because in addition to training, Monk must eat and drink to replenish his physical strength. Use sleep to keep yourself getting enough sleep. If not, even 24 hours of training would not be of any help. Although training for 24 hours can greatly improve Monk. Advertisement. But Monk doesn't want the potential to disappear. He still wants to continue to be strong. So this 13-hour training plan was also formulated. The warden also visits Monk from time to time. Because the underwater world is not far from where Monk lives, he can visit Monk from time to time. And Monk didn't dislike it, and every time the warden came, he would bring a lot of food. So Monk also welcomes the warden very much. And I often discuss with the warden about the situation in the underwater world. And under the situation of Monk's non-stop training. The Soul Messenger and Charlotte Linlin also came to the original world. After arriving here, the Soul Messenger also spoke to Charlotte Linlin and others. Quote. I am still a bit unfamiliar with this world. So, I also hope that you will come and guide me. If not, I will definitely lose my direction. After saying this, he also spread his hands. Advertisement. Chapter 425 Always be vigilant. Advertisement. After hearing what the Soul Messenger said, Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and the others nodded repeatedly. Then everyone led the way ahead. And the Soul Messenger led the New World powerhouses behind him, and followed them forward. In a short time, everyone came to the Ghost Gate Gang. After arriving here, they are also ready to fight, always on the lookout for Monk's appearance. Immediately afterwards, they also sighed one after another. Because Monk is not here, which makes them extremely disappointed. At this time, the Celestial Dragons were also standing there with many strong members of the Ghost Gate Gang, staring coldly at the front. Just listen to Celestial Dragons speaking coldly to Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others at this time. Master 680 Monk said that you three guys are not dead, I thought my ears got it wrong. Looks like you three guys are still alive after all. Since you are alive, just kneel down honestly and beg me for mercy. In that case, I can still bring you to Lord Monk and ask the people of Monk. Advertisement. So as to spare your lives. And if the three of you continue to fight against Master Monk, then don't blame me for being merciless. Killed all of you. Quote. After saying this, Celestial Dragons also looked at the three people in front of them coldly. After hearing what Celestial Dragons said, Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others also burst out laughing. I only heard Charlotte Linlin taunting the Celestial Dragons at this time. Just rely on you trash. How impatient you are to threaten us. This time we came here to find Monk. Otherwise, do you think we would have come here for no reason? Now tell us, where did this Monk go? If not, don't blame me for being rude to you. And the guys behind you won't be having a better time either. Quote. After Charlotte Linlin finished speaking, she also looked at Celestial Dragons coldly, waiting for Celestial Dragons to make a decision. After hearing what Charlotte Linlin said, Celestial Dragons also showed a mocking smile. Advertisement. Then he taunted Charlotte Linlin. Although I didn't hit you guys before. But in the recent period of time, I have been training, and there is no negligence. So I can guarantee that I can easily defeat you, there is no need for Master Monk to attack you. I will be able to kill you quickly. Quote. After the Soul Envoy looked aside for a while, he shook his head helplessly. Then he also walked forward slowly, and said to Celestial Dragons in a cold voice. You're one of Monk's men, right? Celestial Dragons didn't reply, but turned to look at the Soul Messenger coldly. The Spirit Messengers are not asking the Celestial Dragons, but are trying to confirm the accuracy of this message. Charlotte Linlin next to her also answered the question of the Soul Messenger for Celestial Dragons. After hearing Charlotte Linlin's reply, the Soul Messenger also spoke to Celestial Dragons in a cold voice. I'm a short-tempered person, and I don't want to go around in circles, to be honest with you. Just hurry up and tell us where Monk is at this time. Advertisement. Chapter 426 Defeating Celestial Dragons. Advertisement. In that case, we can spare you, do you want to think about it? After saying this, the Soul Messenger also stared at Celestial Dragons coldly. After hearing the words of the Soul Messenger, Celestial Dragons also raised their hands and pointed at the Soul Messenger. Then facing the Soul Messenger, taunted. Based on you trash, do you think you've really got hold of me? These powerhouses behind me are not vegetarians either, as long as we join hands, we can kill all of you. So, you should show some respect and don't be so crazy. 1. After hearing what Celestial Dragons said, the Soul Messenger also shook his head. Then, with a flash, he charged towards the Celestial Dragons. Celestial Dragons snorted coldly when they saw the Soul Messenger approaching, and then punched out. The fist also hit the body of the Soul Messenger, and the Soul Messenger also did not dodge at this moment. Just like that, he was punched by Celestial Dragons abruptly, and then he slowly stretched out his hand to grab Celestial Dragon's arm. Celestial Dragons also did not expect that the other party would be willing to trade injuries for injuries. Afterwards, he quickly wanted to break free, but it was a pity that the Soul Messenger held on very tightly. Advertisement. With just a slight twist, Celestial Dragon's arm snapped off. After doing this, the Soul Envoy is also far away. Then, he said coldly to the Soul Messenger. Now, are you still going crazy? After finishing these words, he also calmed down, staring at the front coldly. At this time, Celestial Dragons was also clutching its broken arm, screaming there. Charlotte Linlin, the Soul Messenger and others watched coldly from the sidelines. And those strong men of the Ghost Gate gang couldn't bear it anymore, and they were also ready to make a move. Go to teach these crazy guys in front of you a lesson, but at this moment Celestial Dragons stopped everyone. I only heard him speak at this time. Now is not a good time for us to make a move, so let's stay calm. Although I was injured, there is no need for you to be so nervous. Quote. After hearing what Celestial Dragons said, many strong members of the Ghost Gate clan froze in place. They didn't expect that the Celestial Dragons would continue to hold on at this time, which is really unexpected. Advertisement. Zero looking for flowers. Afterwards, Celestial Dragons also covered the wound, and looked up at the Soul Messenger coldly. And Charlotte Linlin and others, and then said to several people in a cold voice. You don't have to be rampant there anymore, I'm absolutely not afraid of you, and you can kill or cut as you please. Zero. After saying this, he also snorted coldly. After hearing what Celestial Dragons said, the Soul Messenger shook his head helplessly. Then he spoke to the Celestial Dragons. I didn't expect you to have such a backbone, but so what? Don't you think that with your backbone, I can let you go, don't daydream there. Quote. After saying this, he also snorted coldly, and then reached out his hand to Charlotte Linlin as a gesture. Charlotte Linlin also nodded heavily at this time. Then he walked forward slowly and came to the front of Celestial Dragons. Celestial Dragons was a little nervous at this time, but they were not afraid of she. Advertisement. Chapter 427. Deciding to let Celestial Dragons undercover. Advertisement. I only heard him speaking coldly to the people in front of him at this time. What the hell are you trying to do? At this time, Charlotte Linlin also spoke. Nothing else, just want you to reveal Monk's location to us. As long as you are obedient, we will never make things difficult for you. But if you are disobedient, don't blame 470 for being rude to you. After saying this, he also smiled coldly. Celestial Dragons also snorted coldly, and then spoke. Just relying on you crooked melons and judging dates, you still want to deal with Lord Monk, stop daydreaming. If I were you, then quickly surrender, don't have that kind of wishful thinking dream there. Because dreams will never come true. Quote. The Soul Messenger also completely didn't want to chat with Celestial Dragons any longer, and only listened to him at this time. He also spoke to Charlotte Linlin. Advertisement. Then I'll just wait and kill all those guys behind the Celestial Dragons. I feel that Celestial Dragons may be afraid of these people, so he dare not tell the truth. Quote. After hearing what the Soul Messenger said, Charlotte Linlin nodded slightly. Then the whole person disappeared in place, and then came behind Celestial Dragons. Then he also started to use the weapon in his hand to launch a fierce attack on the strong men of the Ghost Gate gang in front of him. In just a moment's time, all the powerful members of the Ghost Gate gang led by Celestial Dragons died there. Only Celestial Dragons was left, and then the Soul Messenger also walked slowly to Celestial Dragons. Facing Celestial Dragons, said in a cold voice. Now you are the only one left here, so you don't have to follow us there. After saying this, he also sighed helplessly. But, sorry I can't help it. Quote. After saying this, he also smiled coldly. Then the Soul Messenger also discussed with Charlotte Linlin and others. Advertisement. Although I also respect Monk-sama very much, and I also really want to play for Monk-sama. It seems that I can only compromise with you, or else I can't just die here. 0. We 5.9 might as well let the Celestial Dragons continue to hide here, and wait for the guys from Mengshan to find the Celestial Dragons. After saying this, he also looked at the Celestial Dragons indifferently, waiting for the answer from the guy who opened the dragon. Soul Messenger. After hearing what Charlotte Linlin said. The Soul Messenger, Charlotte Linlin and others were also extremely happy after hearing what Celestial Dragons said. Let the Celestial Dragons go to help him, and then let the Celestial Dragons shoot Monk behind his back. It's useless to say those words, let's talk about it quickly, are you willing to work for me? Discussing how to order the Celestial Dragons to do things next, only listening to Charlotte Linlin at this time. After deliberating for a while, he spoke forcefully to the Soul Messenger. This will make Monk pay a heavy price, and we can also take this opportunity to appear suddenly. I won't give you another chance. Quote. Celestial Dragons also sighed helplessly, and then spoke. I am also giving you one last chance now, if you guys don't compromise again. Advertisement. Chapter 428 Feeding Celestial Dragons Medicine. Advertisement. After a little thought, I felt that what the other party said was very reasonable. Then he nodded heavily, and then spoke. I have to say, what you think is indeed reasonable. That being the case, then I will follow your arrangement carefully. After saying this, he also turned his head slowly and looked at Celestial Dragons. Celestial Dragons also frowned, waiting for the order of the Soul Messenger. At this time, the Soul Messenger also smiled slightly, and then spoke forcefully to the celestial dragons. Go ahead and play for Monk, and don't reveal your identity while playing for Monk. If there is any news from Monk, please pass it on to us immediately. Then, we can act decisively and prepare. Quote. After finishing these words, the Soul Messenger also smiled slightly. After hearing the words of the Soul Messenger, celestial dragons also sighed helplessly. Advertisement. He also figured it out, and he was just a pawn of the Soul Messenger. The other party said that they only need to deliver the message for them, which is just putting themselves together. Think of it as a spy planted in Monk's camp, but even he knows what's going on. But there is no way to avoid it, because his life is now in the hands of these people. Then celestial dragons also rolled their eyes, and then spoke to the Soul Messenger. In this case, I will leave first, if there is anything on your side. Let me know again, and I will definitely do my best to help. Quote. After saying this, he also patted his chest. Then he was about to leave. The Soul Messenger also shook his head at this time, and then said to celestial dragons. Don't leave in such a hurry, I'm not ready yet. Then you want to leave, don't you want to inform Monk about the failure? Quote. After hearing the words of the Soul Messenger, celestial dragons hurriedly waved their hands to show that they didn't want to do that. The Soul Messenger also looked at celestial dragons with a half smile, which made celestial dragons very nervous. Advertisement. Then celestial dragons also had no choice but to speak to the Soul Messenger. If you have anything to do, arrange it quickly, don't be so surprised, I just want to go back to the Ghost Gate gang. I didn't even think about passing the news to Meng, didn't you misunderstand me? Quote. After saying this, he also sighed helplessly. After hearing what celestial dragons said, the Soul Envoy snorted coldly, and then spoke to celestial dragons. I don't care what you think, anyway, you have been captured by us. Then your life will be left to us to deal with 377, and I don't feel relieved to let you go like this. Even if there is a verbal agreement, I don't trust you. You must take this pill before you can leave. After finishing these words, the Soul Envoy also took out a pill from the void next to it. Then it was placed in the hands of celestial dragons, and celestial dragons froze in place when they saw the elixir in their hands. Then he was shocked and looked at the Soul Messenger. At this time, the Soul Messenger also sneered and said to celestial dragons. If you swallow it, then I will trust you, and after a while. Advertisement. Chapter 429 Celestial Dragons return to the Ghost Gang. Advertisement. I will send you the antidote, don't worry, after taking this elixir. As long as you take the antidote regularly, you don't have to worry about the consequences at all. Quote. After saying this, he also laughed out loud twice. After hearing the words of the Soul Messenger, celestial dragons also sighed helplessly. Afterwards, he accepted his fate and put the elixir into his mouth. Then he spoke to the Soul Messenger. Do you have any plans now? If not, I'm leaving. The Soul Messenger smiled slightly after hearing what celestial dragons said. Then he waved his hand towards celestial dragons to indicate that celestial dragons can leave. Just like that, celestial dragons also turned around and left here. After watching the celestial dragons leave, the Soul Messenger also slowly restrained his smile. Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others also came forward at this time. Just listening to Kaido, at this time he also asked the Soul Messenger. Advertisement. Are you sure you can make celestial dragons work for us with just one pill? After hearing Kaido's inquiry, the Soul Messenger nodded slightly, and then spoke. You don't have to worry about that, the elixir is highly poisonous, just take it. If there is no antidote within 5 days, then one will surely die, even if the antidote is taken within 5 days. It will still leave toxins in the body of the user, after which he must take the antidote once every half a month. If not, he would bleed to death from 7 orifices. Quote. After saying this, he turned his head to look at Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others. Then, facing several people, Taguchi asked. Even I, the poisoner, can only concoct some relief, the antidote for the death of the poisoned person. After hearing what Charlotte Linlin said, the Soul Messenger also spoke confidently. A group of people snatched the world government in this way, and Monk didn't know about it at all. After celestial dragons returned to the Ghost Gate gang, they also asked like those strong members of the Ghost Gate gang. Don't worry about this, no one in this world can undo this poison yet. Advertisement. Then the world government was occupied, and then Charlotte Linlin and G Duo and others got dirty. Understandable, we're just worried that the poison you put on the celestial dragons isn't that strong. At that time, if Monk makes a move, the thunder of celestial dragons will be solved. After finishing these words, he also waited for the answers from several people. Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and the others breathed a sigh of relief after hearing the words of the Soul Messenger. If this is the case, then the few people are sure that Monk will die without a place to bury him. After hearing the words of the Soul Messenger, Charlotte Linlin also shook her head, and then spoke. So far, I have not been able to make a real antidote. Quote. Then our plan will not be known. That's why we are worried. It is also easy to find the world government, a place where people can live, and live here. After arriving here, everyone, Zhao Nuos, also beheaded all the people here in order to block the news. Then several people came to world government under the leadership of Charlotte Linlin. What's the matter? Is this matter very incomprehensible? Advertisement. Chapter 430 The Warden discovers an abnormality. Advertisement. Where is the panacea for making poison? And he is also asking the medical staff like the Ghost Gang. The performance of my own poisoning, I want them to analyze how to detoxify. But it's a pity that these people also expressed their incomprehension, which made Celestial Dragons extremely distressed. He also thought about telling Monk about it, but then he thought about it. It was found that if Monk couldn't solve this matter, then he had to work for the Soul Messengers. And if you want to work, you have to hide it from Monk, but you have already told Monk the news. Then he can only die without a burial place on his side, so he decided to hide it from Monk first. Find the antidote by yourself. If there is really no antidote, then consider 383. To help the Soul Messenger and others, anyway, Monk is so powerful that it is impossible for him to be defeated by those few sacks. After making up his mind, he also began to arrange for the strong men of the Ghost Gate Gang. Come to cover for the Soul Messenger, Charlotte Linlin and others, logically speaking, the news that the world government is occupied. It should have been known by everyone in the world soon, but it was stopped because of the news of the help of the Celestial Dragons. Advertisement. This makes it impossible for outsiders to know, and Monk is also kept in the dark. During this period of time, Monk also returned to the Ghost Gang, BACG, but the atmosphere in the Ghost Gang has also changed a lot. This made Monk feel very uncomfortable, and Monk also thought that people like Gim and Gang had encountered some kind of problem. That's why he was so sullen, and he didn't consider that the Celestial Dragons had already rebelled. Celestial Dragons is also extremely distressed, and he also wants to tell Monk about his poisoning. And I also want to explain to Monk that I helped the Soul Messenger and others because of helplessness. But when the words came to his lips, he swallowed them down. He was indeed afraid of his own death, so he could only drag it on for a day. As for the Celestial Dragons, they are also anxiously waiting for the arrival of the Soul Messenger. Then he spoke to Monk. Then he hurriedly followed behind the warden and entered the warden's office. Then, after looking around for a while, he said to Mang. Master Monk, come with me, I have something important to tell you. Advertisement. After returning to the underwater world, the warden also found Monk. Monk is not only staying in the Ghost Gate, he will also return to the underwater world. After hearing what the warden said, Monk was also puzzled. Just come with me, don't ask any more questions, I promise this matter is extremely important. He felt that the toxin in his body was almost reaching his heart. After hearing the warden's words, Monk couldn't help but widen his eyes. If the Soul Messenger doesn't come to give him the antidote, he will definitely die. After hearing what Monk said, the warden patted his thigh helplessly. He couldn't think of anything important that could make him regret his whole life. If you have something to say, just say it here, isn't it good? Why do you have to be sneaky? If you don't listen, you will regret it for the rest of your life. Quote. And at noon, the Soul Messenger finally arrived outside the Ghost Gate Gang. Then he spoke to the warden, Yinshin. Advertisement. Chapter 431 Monk knows what's outside. Advertisement. The Soul Messenger also sent out a signal, which made the Celestial Dragons aware of the arrival of the Soul Messenger. Then the Celestial Dragons left in a hurry, and the Ghost Gate Gang looked around. Wanting to find the trace of the Soul Messenger, he finally saw the Soul Messenger. At this time, the Soul Messenger also got up slowly and walked in front of the Celestial Dragons. Then he spoke forcefully to the Celestial Dragons. I have to say, you are quite satisfactory to me, I thought you would definitely play tricks behind your back. But I didn't expect you to get started so quickly. It's so satisfying to know what message to deliver for us. Quote. After Celestial Dragons heard these words of the Soul Messenger, he also hurriedly spoke to the Soul Messenger. Stop talking about what you have and what you don't have, and quickly give the antidote to me. If you don't give me the antidote, I may die suddenly. After hearing the words of Celestial Dragons, the Soul Messenger also reacted suddenly. Then he also handed over the porcelain bottle in his hand to the Celestial Dragons. Advertisement. After Celestial Dragons took the porcelain bottle, they also poured out an antidote, and then hurriedly poured it into their mouths. Following the entrance of the elixir, Celestial Dragons also clearly felt that the toxins began to slowly dissipate. This made Celestial Dragons breathe a sigh of relief, and the Soul Messenger also spoke at this time. Seeing how well you performed, so the antidote is for 2 months. But don't think that I'm just rewarding you, I want you to help me with an extremely important thing. After finishing these words, the Soul Messenger also smiled mysteriously. Celestial Dragon's heart also trembled suddenly, he felt that the guy in front of him might want to do extremely dangerous things by himself. Afterwards, they also asked, I wonder if you can tell me something about this extremely important matter. At that time, I will definitely do my best to do this matter. Quote. After hearing what Celestial Dragons said, the Soul Messenger nodded in satisfaction. Then he spoke forcefully to the Celestial Dragons. I'm going to ask you to find Monk, Monk trusts you very much. Advertisement. 0 for flowers. So in the next step, you will sneak attack him while he is not paying attention, and let him die without a place to bury him. As long as Monk is dead, then I will provide you with a steady stream of antidote. So as to expel the toxins in your body, then we will be cleared. Quote. After saying this, he also smiled slightly towards Celestial Dragons. After hearing the words of the Soul Messenger, Celestial Dragons also hurriedly spoke. As long as you mean what you say, I will definitely get this matter done. After saying this, Celestial Dragons also patted his chest. Then he bid farewell to the Soul Messenger and left here. The Soul Messenger was also extremely happy after watching the celestial dragons leave. He just needs to wait for Monk to die now, and the warden also said softly to Monk. Master Monk, you don't know something. Recently, troubles have occurred in the world government. After hearing this, Monk hurriedly asked. Why I don't know what's wrong, as long as there is trouble at the world government, right it. Advertisement. Chapter 432 Aware of the Betrayal. Advertisement. It should be spread across the country, why is there no news this time? Could it be that you made a mistake in your investigation? After hearing what Monk said, the warden shook his head helplessly. Then, after deliberating his words, he spoke forcefully to Monk. Haven't you thought about the R*** issue? Something must have happened to the world government. July 23rd has been in trouble for a long time, but the news just can't come out. I feel that it may have something to do with celestial dragons. It wasn't celestial dragons who took the initiative to hide this news, or celestial dragons' subordinates. To hide the news of the world government accident for outsiders, and this guy is kind of funny. Even you are hiding it, which is really funny. Quote. After this sentence was finished, the warden also smiled, after Monk heard the words of the warden. The smile on his face also disappeared, slowly getting colder, and then he also turned around and left here. When the warden saw that Monk wanted to leave, he hurriedly stopped him. Advertisement. He also left the underwater world in a hurry, caught up with Monk, and stood in front of Monk. I only heard that he was also asking Monk at this time. Master Monk, why are you in such a hurry? We still need to make a good plan for this matter. If it's really celestial dragons, and this guy is getting in the way, then he must be fully prepared. So you can't find anything if you look for it, and the most important thing is that the law does not blame the public. If these guys attack you together, it will probably have a bad influence. You'd better prepare well before you go, if you don't want to prepare, there will definitely be troubles. Quote. Monk waved his hand immediately, and then spoke to the warden. I called you here this time to tell you about celestial dragons, this guy is really hateful. I don't understand what kind of shocking words the warden is going to tell me. Master Monk, you are not nice to people. Several of my own subordinates and those people are very obedient, how come they are not nice when they come to the warden? Advertisement. After deliberating his words, the warden said 4.4 to Monk's sonorous opening. Celestial dragons also works very seriously for me, and you can't frame him like that. After saying this, the warden also looked at Monk with burning eyes. After hearing the words of the warden, Monk was also a little dazed, not understanding how it was so unkind. Warden, can you explain to me why I am so unkind? After hearing the words of the warden, Monk sighed helplessly. Then Monk asked the warden suspiciously. After hearing Monk's words, the warden first let out a long sigh, and then said to Monk. 0. After saying this, Monk also looked at the warden suspiciously. Seeing that Monk still didn't believe it at this time, the warden sighed helplessly. Afterwards, he also asked the warden. After saying this sentence, Monk also waited for the warden's answer in a daze. What on earth are you trying to say? Why are you keeping it hidden? Advertisement. Chapter 433 Questioning Celestial Dragons. Advertisement. Then he spoke to Monk forcefully. You don't know, celestial dragons took refuge in a person called a soul messenger before. And also did a very incomprehensible thing, the group of soul messengers cleaned up the world government. And the guy celestial dragons is covering for these people in the rear. The reason why the news of the change of ownership of the world government has not been spread is because the celestial dragons interfered with it. That's why I said that you are not good at meeting people. If not, how could I fall into celestial dragons for no reason? Although the two of us are not in the same department, no matter what, we are working together for you. It is impossible for me to frame him. These news are all true. If you don't believe me, go and investigate. Quote. After hearing the words of the warden, Monk also thought for a while. Then he looked at the warden seriously, and asked the warden again. Are you sure you haven't lied? If you lied, it's framing Tianguang to admit someone. When the time comes, I will settle accounts with you. Quote. Advertisement. After saying this, Monk also waited for the warden's answer. The warden is also very helpless, he has already said so many times. Monk still didn't believe it, and then he assured Monk again. Don't worry, I will never lie to you because of this matter. How could I have come to tell you such news if I hadn't investigated well? After hearing the warden's words, Monk nodded slightly, and then spoke to the warden. In that case, next, I will verify whether what you said is right or not. After saying this, Monk stepped aside with the warden, and then left the underwater world. Then they rushed to the Ghost Gang, and the celestial dragons were waiting for Monk's arrival. After Monk arrived at the Ghost Gate Gang, he also looked at celestial dragons with a serious face. After sensing Monk's expression, celestial dragons secretly thought something was wrong. He felt that he might have been exposed, and then he said to Monk's inquiring mouth. Advertisement. Master Monk, what's wrong with you? Why are you so serious? Is this what happened? If so, you can tell me. I will definitely do my best to help you do it. Quote. After saying this, he also looked at Monk seriously. After hearing what celestial dragons said, Monk couldn't help snorting coldly. Then he said to celestial dragons in a cold voice. There is a traitor on my side, I don't know how to solve it, since you are willing to share my worries. Then you tell me 350, how can he be punished? Do you think about it now? After saying this, he was also waiting for the answer from celestial dragons. After celestial dragons heard Monk's words, there was also an instant feeling in his heart that something was wrong. Monk came here with a serious face, and said those inexplicable words. It goes without saying that the so-called traitor must be him, and he was a little flustered after thinking of this. Then he looked at Monk's face inquiringly, when he found Monk's expression was indifferent. He also knew that he had to tell the truth to Monk today, otherwise he would die. Advertisement. Chapter 434 Celestial Dragons Confess. Advertisement. Then he also made a decisive decision and knelt down on the ground. Then he cried to Monk about the things he faced before. After hearing the explanation from celestial dragons, Monk's face softened a little. Then, he spoke to celestial dragons. Since you were persecuted, why didn't you explain the situation to me at that time? Instead, hide it from me, and help the soul messenger and others hide the news. You have gone too far on this point, and I feel that this time I cannot easily forgive you. Quote. Celestial dragons nodded again and again after hearing Monk's words, and then spoke to Monk. Master Monk, apart from not killing me, I am willing to accept other punishment conditions. After all, he kowtowed a few times abruptly. Monk saw such spineless celestial dragons. He also secretly made up his mind in his heart that celestial dragons must not be reused after that. Although I can no longer take over the Ghost Gate gang, I must find another more reliable person to take over the Ghost Gate gang. This guy can only make other arrangements. After thinking about this, Monk also said to celestial dragons in a cold voice. Advertisement. Since you know you are wrong, then you should stop managing the Ghost Gate gang. You can withdraw from the Ghost Gang, and then I will send another person to take over the Ghost Gang, and you will follow me. Celestial dragons breathed a sigh of relief when they heard that Monk would not kill him, and then slowly stood up. Then suddenly thought of an important thing, just listen to him at this time. Also facing Monk, he spoke forcefully. Master Monk, I was set up by the soul messenger and swallowed his elixir. As a result, I was poisoned, and the poison was very powerful. If you don't swallow the antidote within a certain period of time, you will die suddenly. Can you help me get rid of this poison? Quote. After saying this, he also looked at Monk expectantly. Then Monk closed his eyes, sensing the situation inside the celestial dragons. After Monk probed and understood, he slowly opened his eyes and retracted his hands, looking at celestial dragons with a serious face. After hearing what celestial dragons said, Monk also raised his eyebrows. Advertisement. Then, he said to Monk in horror. After saying this, Monk also took out a black elixir and put it in the hands of celestial dragons. Monk also smiled when he heard the words, and then spoke. Master Monk, can't you solve this matter? After celestial dragons saw this elixir, their pupils shrank slightly. You don't have to be so afraid of that kind of poison, it's easier to deal with it. Celestial dragons thought that Monk couldn't solve this matter, so they panicked. Then he also said to Monk in an inquiring manner. Then he spoke to the celestial dragons. Then Monk discovered that the black energy remained in the internal organs of celestial dragons. Then he walked forward slowly, stretched out his left hand and put it on the shoulder of celestial dragons. Then the power came out through the body and dripped into the body of celestial dragons. Monk also shook his head seeing celestial dragons looking so cautious. Master Monk, isn't this a poison? Why did you take it out? Advertisement. Chapter 435 Monk goes to the Ghost Gate gang. Advertisement. Don't look at him as poison before, but now it is the antidote when it is used on you. As the saying goes, fighting poison with poison, it can neutralize the poison given to you by the soul messenger, and then you will be recuperated. It will be able to eliminate all the toxins in the body. Are you willing to believe me now? If you believe me, you can swallow it. If you don't believe me, then I can't help it. After hearing what Monk said, celestial dragons also nodded helplessly. Then he took the black elixir, and then threw the elixir into his mouth as if he was dying. Immediately afterward, his skin also became blood red, and there was faint blood flowing out of his pupils. Seeing this, Monk couldn't help raising his eyebrows, and then he also spoke to celestial dragons. Now it depends on whether you have perseverance, if you can hold on and not pass out. Then you can continue to live, and these poisons will be cleared. And if you are unconscious at this critical moment, then Uranus Lousy will not be able to save you. Quote. Advertisement. After saying this, Monk joined the Ghost Gate gang, and he was going to hand over the management of the Ghost Gate gang to others. And Monk also wants to take a look now, who is the confidant of celestial dragons. Then get rid of them as soon as possible to prevent the Ghost Gang from becoming the celestial dragons. After entering the Ghost Gang, Monk did the same, making all the strong men of the Ghost Gang gather in front of him. After many Ghost Gang members gathered together, they also looked at Monk with doubts. I don't know what orders Monk has to give, and Monk is also tapping the table with his fingers at this time. Because there are fewer people, it doesn't seem so noisy anymore. And also secretly made up his mind in his heart, no matter who will take over the Ghost Gang in the future. They didn't expect that celestial dragons would be liquidated by Monk. What kind of reason is this? There was also a vague smile on his face, and many strong men from the Ghost Gate gang waited for a while. Then everyone asked Monk one after another, some of them didn't even ask the reason. They all started to work for the celestial dragons, and after Monk's liquidation, the Gimin gang became quieter all of a sudden. Advertisement. After Monk's liquidation, half of the strong members of the Ghost Gate gang have become incompatible with Monk. Monk raised his head after hearing the words of the Baj gangster. Then a strong member of the Ghost Gang also spoke to Monk. Just this one sentence made many strong men of the Ghost Gate gang change their faces. Master Monk, if you have anything to do, please tell me as soon as possible. And those powerful members of the Gimin gang who were not wiped out by Monk were also watching their noses and their hearts, and dared not say anything. After preparing for this matter, I will settle accounts with them again. Soon, this conversation will come to an end. Then Monk was also the confidant who started to arrange, dealing with those strong members of the Ghost Gate gang who had a past with celestial dragons. He looked thoughtfully at the strong man of the Gimin gang, and then spoke loudly to the people in front of him. Just like Monk pleading for celestial dragons, Monk also kept the names of these people in his heart. Before Monk could speak, they were also a little anxious. I came here to deal with the celestial dragons. Advertisement. Chapter 436 Cleaning up the Ghost Gate gang. Advertisement. They must obey Monk's orders and never communicate with the temporary managers. In this way, the Gimin gang is also formalized, and it is once again classified under the management of Monk. Monk also temporarily appointed a strong man from the Ghost Gate gang to manage the Ghost Gate gang. As for celestial dragons, after draining all the poison in their bodies, they licked their faces and came to Monk. Monk also snorted coldly at this time, and then spoke to celestial dragons. I didn't expect you to be quite powerful, I just haven't been here for a while. You are about to eat away at the Ghost gang gradually, if you come back later. This Ghost gang is about to become your talk, no wonder you guy. He will surrender to the Soul Messenger as soon as he is captured by the Soul Messenger. It turns out that you have harbored evil intentions long ago and wanted to resist me. Quote. After saying this, Monk also looked at celestial dragons with a half smile. After hearing what Monk said, celestial dragons broke out in a cold sweat. Then he hurriedly spoke to Monk. Master Monk, don't get me wrong, I don't have that kind of thinking. Advertisement. My sincerity to you can be learned from heaven and earth, and the reason why those strong people in the Ghost gang obey me. Maybe it's because I'm quick to handle things that they think I can manage the Ghost gang well, so they listen to me. Monk also sneered when he heard the words, didn't say anything, and then rushed to the distance. Celestial dragons also looked behind, then at Monk's back, and then heaved a long sigh. Walking forward behind Monk, he also wanted to return to the Ghost Gate gang. But at this time, the Ghost Gate gang has all been wiped out. The rest of the people will definitely guard him strictly, and at this time all the members of the gang are members of Monk. He won't be comfortable going back, so he might as well go with Monk. No matter how serious this guy is, Monk is easier to talk about, so he has made up his mind. Follow Monk, he will follow wherever Monk goes. But he was guarded by Monk, which made him very helpless. Prevent the warden from worrying all the time, and wait until the time to reach beyond the underwater world. And without losing Monk's trust, the toxicity of the poison on his side is indeed cured now. After saying this, Monk disappeared in a flash. Advertisement. You wait here for a while, I will go alone to communicate with the warden. 0. Monk didn't ask much, anyway, he didn't trust celestial dragons anymore. If he had known this was the result, he would have swallowed the elixir given by the Soul Messenger at that time. Monk also spoke to celestial dragons. It doesn't take long, so you don't have to follow in. Quote. I will definitely tell Monk about this matter, in that case, the influence of the poison can be resolved. The first place Monk rushed to was the underwater world, and he was going to call the warden back. It is of no use to bring back the celestial dragons. 0. After hearing what Monk said, celestial dragons also let out a long sigh. He also wanted to leave here, no longer walking with Monk, after thinking about this place. Celestial dragons also turned around and left here in a daze. No one knows where he went next. 0 Looking for flowers. Advertisement. Chapter 437 Find a way to deal with the Soul Messenger. Advertisement. After Monk returned to the underwater world, he told the warden about the celestial dragons. And also talked with the warden about what happened before. The warden was also shocked, and at this moment he was also thinking secretly. Fortunately, I told Master Monk about this matter earlier. If it was later, the Ghost Gate gang would probably change hands. After thinking of this, the warden also breathed a sigh of relief. 413. After chatting with the warden for a while, Monk also changed the topic and chatted about world government. I only heard that at this time, he was also asking the warden. Warden, do you still know the situation of the world government? What is the situation of the world government at this time? After saying this, Monk also looked at the warden with burning eyes. At this time, Monk wanted it and started to attack the world government. Because the world government at this time is controlled by the Soul Messenger, Charlotte Linlin and others, and Monk cannot afford to be negligent. Soul Messengers, Charlotte Linlin and others are like Lion Majesty hiding in the dark, only Monk is negligent. Then they will appear instantly and bite the Monk. Advertisement. Thinking of this, Monk had no choice but to start investigating the situation at the world government. Otherwise, what decision the other party makes, I don't even know the news. At that time, the unlucky one will be himself, so he will ask like the warden. After hearing Monk's inquiry, the warden also smiled slightly. Then he thought about his words for a while, and then he spoke forcefully to Monk. Since I told you before, celestial dragons and soul messengers occupied the world government. I started to focus on it and started investigating the world government. Then I found that these guys have been extremely low-key recently, but don't think they have stopped there. These guys are also secretly recruiting people, recruiting fighters in the name of world government. I heard that they have recruited hundreds of fighters, although these fighters are not too strong. But it is not a weak force to strike together. Quote. After hearing the words of the warden, Monk also spoke to the warden. 0. Now let those strong men in the underwater world come with me. Advertisement. I'm going to find the soul messenger, and I'm going to settle accounts with him. Quote. After saying this, Monk also snorted coldly. After hearing what Monk said, the warden waved his hands again, and then spoke to Monk. Master Monk, you can't do this. If you make such a decision, you will definitely be calculated by the soul messenger and others. Quote. After hearing what the warden said, Monk also frowned and remained silent. Then he asked the soul messenger for the reason, and the soul messenger also explained the situation to Monk in every detail. It was only then that Monk suddenly realized that 2.5 came. It turned out that there were Charlotte Linlin and the soul messenger. There are many traps set outside the world government. And they also set up some targeted attack weapons for Monk. It must be very inappropriate for Monk to go there hastily. Then Monk also asked the warden. If that's the case, then what should I do here? Advertisement. Chapter 438 Finding a countermeasure to crusade the soul messenger. Advertisement. Only then can the world government be snatched from the hands of Charlotte Linlin and the soul messenger. After saying this, Monk also fell silent, waiting for the warden's answer. After hearing Monk's question, the warden thought for a while, and then spoke to Monk. Master Monk, we can use some simple methods to deal with this matter. First of all, we might as well publicize that the world government has been acquired by Charlotte Linlin, as well as the news of the occupation of the soul messengers and other traitors, and then use the two major forces of the Ghost Gang and the 10 underwater world. Put pressure on the world government together, and point out the reasons for crusade against them. In that case, these people will definitely throw their hands at the mouse, and then they will be in a mess. We can also seize this opportunity and attack them. If these guys don't take the initiative to jump out, then we will keep putting pressure on them. If they jump out on their own initiative, then you can easily deal with them. Advertisement. After this sentence was finished, the warden also smiled slightly. After hearing what the warden said, Monk nodded in satisfaction. Then he spoke to the warden. That's right, your so-called strategy, although it's a bit incomplete. But at this moment, it is also a rare and good way. You can go back first, and I will arrange this matter. After this sentence was finished, Monk began to arrange the matter. By the next day, everyone in this world will know. The world government was taken by a guy called the Soul Messenger. Moreover, this guy has been recruiting people under the banner of wanting world peace. But the other party's little thought has been exposed to everyone's eyes, that is, this guy wants to dominate the world. The two skins of the human mouth spread more and more strangely. The news was originally spread from Monk. It is said that the soul messenger has a dark heart and wants to seize the world, but the version that everyone knows is different. Advertisement. Many powerhouses got secondhand information and thought that the soul messenger was trying to bring chaos to the world. And when it spread to the ears of the common people thought that the soul messenger wanted to slaughter everyone in the world. All of a sudden, everyone began to resist the soul messenger. Even the hundreds of strong men who had taken refuge in the soul messenger before retreated. Monk was also extremely happy after hearing the news, but only Monk was happy. The soul messenger, Charlotte Linlin and the others were jumping their feet in anger, and they also didn't expect the great situation. Just because of a rumor about Monk, it was in vain, and now they are also facing the attention of many forces. If they want to act, they will be noticed, and under certain circumstances, they will be stopped. Knowing that their actions are limited, the soul messenger also wanted to get angry several times and shot at these people. But they were all stopped by Charlotte Linlin and Kaido, because in the eyes of several people, no matter how weak those people are, they are still people in this world. If the soul messengers are allowed to continue to kill indiscriminately, then in the future, there will be more rumors circulating, and their situation will be even more unfavorable. Advertisement. Chapter 439 Soul Messenger discusses countermeasures. Advertisement. In response to this matter, everyone began to discuss it. At this time, the soul messenger, Charlotte Linlin and others also gathered together. I only heard that Charlotte Linlin was also asking the soul messenger, Kaido and others at this time. Everyone is unclear about the situation at this time, and Monk is starting to put pressure on us. What should we do? After saying this, he also looked expectantly at these companions, wanting to hear their suggestions. After hearing Charlotte Linlin's question, Kaido thought for a while before speaking. Now we have no other choice, just continue to keep silent. Monk will always have the upper hand, and the outside world will think that Monk is right. At that time, our side will be dominated by Monk, and that would be a bit inappropriate. So it's better to strike first and find a chance to sneak attack and kill Monk. In that case, many troubles can be eliminated. Quote. After hearing what Kaido said, Charlotte Linlin nodded slightly. Advertisement. Charlotte Linlin also thinks that Kaido's method is feasible, but it should be kept. It was impossible to make a decisive decision, because there were several other companions who did not express their opinions. The soul messenger was thinking hard there, and Charlotte Linlin hurriedly asked the soul messenger when she saw this. Soul messenger, Please tell us your thoughts, we shouldn't be the only ones who decide. After hearing what Charlotte Linlin said, the Soul Messenger also sighed helplessly. Then he spoke to Charlotte Linlin. It seems that Celestial Dragons is not good at handling things. I thought that the Soul Messenger was a little disappointed because his plan failed. Then Wang Zhao glanced at the crowd and said, I only heard him say helplessly to the Soul Messenger at this time. How could it be so easy to be fooled? So let's think about other things carefully. Quote. Then he spoke comfortingly to the Soul Messenger. Advertisement. You don't need to look for him anymore, this guy has already been chased away by Monk, and the poison on his body has been detoxified. Kill Monk on the spot, and all troubles will be solved. Next, I must find him and settle accounts with him. Quote. Backquote I felt that approach was inappropriate at the time, a very cautious person like Monk. This is a bit too surprising. After Charlotte Linlin noticed the change in the Soul Messenger's face. We just need to kill the Monk. After hearing what Charlotte Linlin said, the Soul Messenger was also shocked immediately. It's useless no matter how much we plan, let's go out earlier. My thinking was exactly the same as Kaido's thinking, and I was ready to shoot Monk immediately. Charlotte Linlin smiled wryly after hearing what the Soul Messenger said. And no matter what we do, we are not afraid because the ending is written by the winner. After hearing what Charlotte Linlin said, the Soul Messenger also nodded slightly. He was not shocked because the Celestial Dragons were driven away by Monk, but because the poison on Celestial Dragons was detoxified by Monk. Advertisement. Chapter 440. Starting to fight. Advertisement. Then we'll be above board, and Monk will be that sinister and cunning guy. After finishing this sentence, he also waited for answers from Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others. Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and the others could only nod their heads after hearing what the Soul Messenger said. They also want to say a few more words, but if they say a few more words, there is no way to turn the tide of the battle. Simply listen to the arrangement of the Soul Messenger, and just like that, everyone started to deal with this matter, and it only took half a day. Everyone is also ready, and then the Soul Messengers are ready to bring the fighters of the world government. Going to find Monk to settle accounts, Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others are also ready to follow. But was stopped by the Soul Messenger, 247 he also said that if they all go. It is very likely that he will be tricked by Monk, and Monk is also extremely cunning. If he set up a conspiracy behind the scenes to trap everyone there. Then the world government will be taken away by Monk, and in that case, their only advantage will be lost. In order to prevent this from happening, the Soul Messenger also ordered Charlotte Linlin and Kaido to stay in the world government. Advertisement. Although Charlotte Linlin and Kaido are very worried. But since the Soul Messenger has clearly stated BAFB, his thoughts, Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others are not easy to refuse. They also stayed in the world government together, waiting for the Soul Messenger to leave. Charlotte Linlin was also helpless, and said to Kaido and the red-haired two. You two, do you think the Soul Messenger can succeed this time? Kaido smiled wryly after hearing Charlotte Linlin's inquiry. If the three of us don't follow him, he's no match for Monk. Well, let's stop thinking about so many useless things, let's focus on thinking about it now. You can ask such a question, it shows that you still don't believe in Soul Messengers. I don't know if you guys agree with me or not. Quote. In fact, it's not just you who don't believe it, I'm also somewhat skeptical about his ability. All the fighters he brought were lost. Quote. Advertisement. After saying this, the redhead was also waiting for answers from Charlotte Linlin and Kaido. Then he spoke to Charlotte Linlin. Afterwards, everyone continued to recruit soldiers, but because Monk had already spread the news. Riding on the boat in arrogance, sailing forward, his primary goal is the Ghost Gang. Actually, we can also trust the Soul Messenger, but don't expect too much from him. How should we proceed to the next step? We are planning this matter with the worst thoughts in mind. But the Soul Envoy who had already set off didn't know about it, and he also brought those fighters with him. Charlotte Linlin and Kaido nodded again and again after hearing what the redhead said. So much so that no one wants to join the world government, and even the original people in the world government are ready to leave. The red-haired man thought about his words, and then said helplessly. I feel that this time the Soul Messenger is likely to return without success, and it is also very possible. This matter also caused Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others extremely distressed. Advertisement. Chapter 441 Soul Emissary defeated. Advertisement. Because he had been to the Ghost Gate Gang before, he was also familiar with the road and brought people here. After arriving here, he was also extremely helpless to find that there were many strong men ambushing around. This made him feel regret for a while, and just when he was secretly distressed. Monk also slowly walked out from behind a tree and spoke to the Soul Messenger. I didn't expect that you came here in person, I thought you would be frightened. Send Charlotte Linlin, and the guests. Quote. After hearing Monk's words, the Soul Messenger raised his head immediately. The emotion of regret before was also replaced by the emotion of anger, only listening to him at this time. He also said to Monk coldly. It's you guy who didn't talk about Wood and slandered you me before. It makes it difficult for me to recruit from the world government. Quote. Monk also didn't expect that the Soul Messenger just occupied the world government for a while. He began to call it his world government, which is really shameless. Advertisement. I only heard him speaking in a cold voice to the Soul Messenger at this time. Isn't it all because you guys designed me in advance? If you're not going to fight the Celestial Dragons, then let the Celestial Dragons do it for you. Then I will definitely not come to deal with you so early, but it is a pity that you are indeed extremely cunning. You want to use my men to deal with me, but you were defeated by me after your trickery failed, you really deserve it. When you come here today, I will not say anything more to you. I will definitely kill you and your subordinates, so that there will be no future troubles. Quote. After saying this, Monk raised his right hand in a showy manner. Then he slammed down fiercely, the ghost gang and many strong men in the underwater world. It also took out the long-range offensive weapon in an instant, and launched an attack towards the surrounded world government. Although the fighters of the world government are also very powerful. But in the case of being caught off guard, it is inevitable to die, but half of them died in an instant. The sole envoy also did not expect that these strong men brought by him would be so unbearable. Advertisement. 0 for flowers 00. This made him feel a burst of anger, and then he gritted his teeth and stared at Monk. Monk didn't say anything more, but took out an iron ball. Armored colors were attached to the iron ball, and Haki then gathered his strength and threw the iron ball hard. Then he flew towards the soul messenger, and the soul messenger's face changed drastically, and then he hurriedly avoided. 0. The iron ball didn't hit the soul messenger, but hit the fighters behind him. With just one blow, dozens of fighters were knocked to the ground. Seeing the damage of the fighters under his hands, the soul messenger also felt distressed. Then he hurriedly raised his right hand and said to Monk. Hurry up and tell your subordinates to stop, the two of us can still have a good talk. Monk also didn't expect that the soul messenger was going to talk about things with him. This was really unexpected, and then he gave orders to those subordinates. After receiving Monk's order, these strong men from the underwater world and the ghost gang stopped attacking 0 immediately. Advertisement. Chapter 442 The Escape of the Soul Messenger. Advertisement. Seeing this, the soul messenger was also relieved, but he still felt very uncomfortable. Because this group of experts from the underwater world and the ghost gang were staring at him. It was as if a hungry wolf saw a piece of raw meat, it was extremely vicious. But no matter how uncomfortable he was, he couldn't say it, because it was Monk's home game at this time, and he had already lost. And when he looked, 460, left and right, Monk also frowned, and then said to the soul messenger in a cold voice. Soul messenger, what are you thinking? Didn't you tell me to stop attacking? That being the case, then you speak out your thoughts. If you don't say it, I will continue to let my men attack. Quote. After saying this, Monk also raised his right hand again. Seeing this, the soul messenger hurriedly spoke to Monk. Monk, please don't do this, we have something to discuss, I admit that I had some conflicts with you before. But I am also ready to let it go, I don't want to fight with you anymore, can you also let me live? Advertisement. After we do this, we will be able to stay in the same place, I don't know what you want. Quote. After saying this, he also looked at Monk expectantly, waiting for Monk's answer. After hearing the words of the soul messenger, Monk also shook his head. Then he said to the soul messenger in a cold voice. You guys are really interesting, you started begging me for mercy when you knew you were invincible. And when you think you can do it, you keep yelling at me. Don't worry, I will never do that again. After learning of Monk's order, the ghost gang and the strong men of the underwater world also took action one after another. Then he also looked at the fighters behind him, and then said to them with an apologetic face. 0. Then Monk spoke to those strong men under his hands. After saying this, he also turned around and disappeared in place. Monk is also used to it, this guy has escaped from him twice, one more time is not too much. Advertisement. Don't let the rest of these people go, let's kill them all. Seeing Monk sneering there all the time, the soul envoy felt something was wrong in his heart, and he felt that Monk might not let him go. Monk also sneered when he heard the words. In Monk's opinion, the soul messenger should die a million times. I'm really sorry, I can't take care of you next time, I'm going to leave, you can ask for more blessings. As for the soul messenger, they also returned to the world government in despair, and waited until they returned to the world government. After hearing Monk's words, the soul messenger shook his head again, and then patted his chest to assure Monk. He also smiled awkwardly at Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others. After being cleaned up, many strong men also returned to their own organizations. After saying this, Monk also turned around and walked towards the ghost gate. In just 0.9 seconds, everyone shot together, and the fighters on the world government side were also quickly beheaded and waited for the battlefield. With a personality like yours, I can't guarantee whether you will come to me to make trouble after you improve your strength next. If I am doing that kind of behavior, tell me to die badly. Quote. Advertisement. Chapter 443 The helper took the initiative to find the door. Advertisement. Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others sighed helplessly when they saw the return of the soul messenger. They knew that this guy would not succeed, and they didn't have much hope for him before. So I am not very disappointed, the soul messenger saw Charlotte Linlin and Red Hair and others. When he didn't have any expression, he was a little at a loss, and then he spoke to several people. What's the matter with you? Why is it so plain? Logically speaking, you are after I come back. You should be extremely disappointed, your expressions are not quite right. 10. After finishing these words, he also waited for the answers from several people. After hearing the words of the soul messenger, Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others were also very helpless. I only heard Charlotte Linlin speaking to the soul messenger at this time. We didn't have much hope at first, so even if you fail, we won't be disappointed in the slightest. Let's think about it, how to deal with Monk next, and stop worrying about this failure. Advertisement. If we keep procrastinating on this matter, we will never succeed. After saying this, he also spread his hands, and Kaido and Hongfa nodded again and again. Seeing this, the Soul Messenger sighed helplessly, and then spoke. In that case, let's have a good discussion about what to do next. Everyone also began to think at this moment, but because of the loss of world government fighters. As a result, the next plans of several people were also affected, and several people came up with several solutions one after another. However, there was no way to realize it, so they just let it go hastily, and went to deal with their own affairs. Monk is also training non-stop, he wants to make himself stronger. And let the power of Devil Fruit be more full, in that case, when you are fighting with the Soul Messenger. It will be able to gain the upper hand, thus killing the Soul Messenger, preventing him from continuing to escape. And just as Monk was dripping with sweat, the warden also walked up to Monk. Then he bowed his hands to Monk, and Monk also put the training equipment on the ground. Advertisement. Then he asked the warden suspiciously. Warden, do you have something to tell me? After saying this, Mon is also waiting for the warden's answer. After hearing Monk's inquiry, the warden nodded again and again. Then he spoke to Monk forcefully. 653 inches. There is a guy outside who claims to be the Venerable Soul, and he is looking for you. And he also said that he can help you deal with the Soul Messenger together. I don't know if you would like to meet. Quote. After he finished speaking, he was also waiting for Monk's answer, after Monk heard the words of the warden. He also became energetic in an instant, and then he spoke to the warden. Are you sure the other party really said that? You didn't add oil and vinegar. After saying this, they also waited for the warden's answer, and the warden also shook his head. Said that these were the original words of the Venerable Soul. Monk also rushed out of the underwater world in a hurry after hearing this. Advertisement. Chapter 444, A Happy Talk. Advertisement. Wanting to see where the Venerable Soul is, Monk, led by the warden, also saw the Venerable Soul. After seeing Venerable Soul, Monk also nodded slightly. Compared with the Soul Envoy, this Divine Soul Venerable is extremely upright, and this person is dressed gorgeously. And it seems that it is also extremely fairy-like. Then Monk also cupped his hands towards Venerable Soul, and then spoke. I don't know what your real purpose is here. Why did you come here suddenly? Want to help me deal with the Soul Messenger? You don't know me, and you have never met before. Why did you suddenly show up and be willing to help me? Could it be that you did it out of kindness? Quote. After saying this, Monk also looked at Venerable Soul in doubt, waiting for Venerable Soul's answer. Venerable Soul also smiled slightly after hearing Monk's words. Then, facing Monk, Taguchi replied, I'm not here to help you, I'm here to help myself. Monk was also slightly taken aback when he heard the words, and then looked at Venerable Soul inquiringly. Advertisement. Then he also waited for the Venerable Spirit to continue to inform. Venerable Shinhun also spoke to Monk again after deliberating his words. The Soul Messenger has a grudge against me, and the two of us learned soul art at the same time. But this guy used the soul technique to harm other people. The original purpose of soul art research is to save people. So I prepare to fight him, and then clear the portal. Quote. After hearing these words of Venerable Soul, Monk also understood the reason of the matter. It turns out that the Soul Envoy and the Soul Venerable came from the same school, no wonder they have enmity. Then Monk spoke to Venerable Soul. Since this is the case, then stop standing outside and come in to talk first. Let's put aside the matter of fighting the Soul Messenger next. After we are ready, it is not too late to set off to deal with the Soul Messenger. Quote. After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Soul also nodded slightly. Advertisement. Then he followed Monk and entered the underwater world. After entering the underwater world, the two chatted happily. Seeing that it was almost noon, Monk also asked the warden to prepare the meals. Then they chatted happily with Venerable Soul, and waited for both of them to get drunk. They also went back to their respective rooms to rest, and waited until the next morning when they woke up. The two also began to discuss the matter of dealing with the Soul Messenger. I only heard that Monk was also speaking to the Venerable Soul in front of him at this time. What are we going to do with this next? If it's about fighting him. I don't have any fear at all, I can easily, Zhao's good defeat him. But somehow this guy has been able to escape from my hands. I think there is no way to chase him, so I haven't dealt with him for so long. Otherwise, he would have killed him long ago. Quote. Venerable Soul also waved his hands after hearing Monk's words, and then spoke forcefully. Don't worry about this, I'm on the same level as him, I know his escape moves. Advertisement. Chapter 445, Monk attacks world government. Advertisement. When he escapes, I can set a restriction on him so that he cannot escape. After saying these words, Venerable Soul also patted his chest. Said that he can definitely handle the matter properly, after Monk heard the words of Venerable Soul. He also nodded in relief, and then said to Venerable Shinhun. I don't have any other problems here, just this one. Since you said you can solve it, let's set off immediately to find the Soul Messenger. Killing this guy earlier will allow both of us to be quieter. Quote. After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Soul also nodded repeatedly, approving Monk's words very much. After that, the two of them also began to prepare, and waited until noon of 823 that day. The two also brought many strong men to the world government side, and waited until they arrived at the world government. Monk also let these powerhouses in the underwater world surround the world government. After receiving Monk's order, many powerful people in the underwater world also dispatched one after another. Advertisement. Afterwards, the world government was completely surrounded, and then Monk turned his head to look at Venerable Soul. Venerable Soul also smiled slightly, and then the two shouted to summon the Soul Messenger together. And the appearance of Charlotte Linlin and others, the Soul Messenger and Charlotte Linlin and others are in the residence. It was also after hearing the voice outside, and then they looked at each other. Everyone was extremely helpless, and then they walked out of the world government one after another. Then came outside and saw the monk and the Venerable Soul standing outside. When seeing Venerable Soul, Kaido, Charlotte Linlin and others didn't show any other expressions. But it shocked the Soul Envoy, and he was a little flustered at this time. Because he actually met an acquaintance here, and the strength of this person is also extraordinary. And it may be much stronger than him. At this time, Charlotte Linlin also noticed the expression on the Soul Messenger's face. Then he also asked the Soul Messenger in doubt. Soul Messenger, what's wrong with you? Isn't this bad person in front of you very difficult to deal with? After saying this, he also waited for the other party's answer. Advertisement. The Soul Messenger at this time is also extremely helpless, only listening to him at this time. He also spoke to Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others. The opponent is indeed very difficult to deal with. This guy came from the same school as me. This guy knows all the soul arts I know, and this time I probably won't be able to escape. Quote. After saying this, he also sighed helplessly. Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others also spread their hands after hearing the words of the Soul Messenger. I only heard Charlotte Linlin also speak at this time. You don't have to worry, this guy is nothing to be afraid of, there are so many people on our side. There are only 1 or 2 people on the other side, are we still afraid that they will not succeed? How can you succeed if you are afraid of East and West? Don't you think so? After this sentence was finished, Charlotte Linlin was also the shoulder of the drunken Soul Messenger. Signaling the Soul Messenger not to be nervous, the Soul Messenger also spread his hands, and then said helplessly. Well, since this is the case, I can only trust you once, and then I will fight with them. Advertisement. Chapter 446 Make People Ridiculous. Advertisement. In fact, the idea of the Soul Messenger is to leave here, but since several people have said so. If he said to leave, it would be a little inappropriate, and it would probably be ridiculed. While the few people were chatting, Venerable Shinhun also said to the Soul Messenger in a cold voice. Don't you come to say hello to me when you see me. You're still there, talking with other people. It seems that you guys really don't respect me. Quote. After saying this, he also snorted coldly. Charlotte Linlin, the Soul Envoy and others, after hearing these words of the Venerable Soul. It was also Chi-Chi's sneer, only to hear the Soul Envoy taunting the Venerable Soul at this time. You guys are really a little crazy, don't think that you are older than me and you can show off your power here. Let me tell you, you are not that powerful, and I am not afraid of you, just rely on you. Together with my companions, I can defeat you. Quote. After hearing the words of the Soul Envoy, Monk turned his head to look at the Soul Venerable. Venerable Shinhun was also a little bit embarrassed, he felt that the other party was a little too rampant. Advertisement. I only heard that at this time, he also said to the Soul Messenger coldly. It seems that you don't cry when you see the coffin, if that's the case. Then I won't show mercy anymore, and I will kill you next. After hearing the words of Venerable Soul, the Soul Envoy also sneered. You've said that before, but in the end you still can't do anything about me. So don't be there and say those useless things, I won't be afraid of you at all. After saying this, he also showed a mocking expression towards Venerable Soul. Venerable Shinhun also shook his head at this time, and then spoke. It seems that you have become so obsessed with your obsession that you have reached this point. If this guy gets in the way and makes a sudden attack, then I won't fight with you. Quote. After hearing the words of the Soul Messenger, the Venerable Soul also showed a mocking expression. After saying these words, he also looked at Venerable Soul with burning eyes. And also cooperate with those 3 hateful people behind you. Advertisement. But also in terms of fighting. Quote. After finishing these words, he also turned towards the Venerable Soul in front, and said in a cold voice. You don't understand the conflict between the two of us, so let me fight with it. Why? 0 Looking for flowers. It seems that in the future, if I don't attack you, you will really continue to be obsessed with it. Why did you bargain with me today? At this time, Celestial Dragons also shook its head towards Charlotte Linlin, and then spoke. After saying this, he also shook his head, and then walked forward slowly. In the past, you wouldn't say such things, you were very confident. But you have to promise me, Monk won't make a move. After saying this, he also had a joking look on his face, and looked towards Soul Messenger Mountain. Since you want to fight with me, then let's have a good fight. At this time, Charlotte Linlin hastily stood in front of the Celestial Dragons. He only heard him speak at this time. Advertisement. Chapter 447 I'm not afraid of you. Advertisement. The Soul Envoy also shook his head when he heard the words, and then said to the venerable spiritual being in front of him. I admit that I can't beat Monk, and I'm afraid to fight him. But don't worry, I'm definitely not afraid of you. Just relying on you, I can kill you with a lot of effort. After finishing these words, he also looked coldly at the venerable soul in front of him. Venerable Shenhun heard that 327 also knew about this guy, and there was no cure for it. That being the case, there is no need to say anything more to him. Then he ran forward quickly, and then punched out, trying to kill him. The soul messenger also tilted his head at this time, dodging the opponent's punch. Then he put his knee on the opponent's abdomen. And at this moment, Venerable Soul also suddenly turned into a phantom, dodging the opponent's blow. This made the soul messenger also stunned. And just when the soul envoy was in a daze, the body of the soul lord solidified again. Then he punched the soul messenger in the face. Advertisement. Then he also pointed forward with his fingers, and a group of green rays of light appeared on his fingertips. With the appearance of green light, the soul messenger is also obvious. Then he hurriedly hid to the side, trying to avoid the opponent's attack. But it's a pity that at this time, the venerable soul has also concentrated the attack power properly. And it has already launched that group of power. As this group of energy approached, it also pierced the soul messenger all at once. The soul messenger was also injured immediately. Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others also hurried forward, and then looked at the people in front of them seriously. I only heard that Charlotte Linlin was also asking the soul messenger at this time. How is it? Do you need help? After hearing Charlotte Linlin's inquiry, the soul messenger also shook his head. Then he wiped the bloodline at the corner of his mouth, stood up, and looked at Venerable Soul seriously. Monk, who was on the side, also shook his head helplessly, and then spoke to Venerable Soul. Honorable Soul, haven't you finished the battle yet? Advertisement. If it doesn't work, let me fight with it. 0. I don't know if it is possible. After saying these words, he also took a fancy to Venerable Soul. After hearing what Monk said, Venerable Soul also shook his head helplessly. Then he spoke to Monk. Let me deal with this person from now on, just wait there for a while. And don't worry, I will never waste any more time. Quote. After saying this, he also patted his chest heavily, showing that he will definitely work hard in the future. Monk also nodded slightly at this time, without saying anything. Then they also waited for the Venerable Soul and the Soul Messenger to continue fighting. At this time, the 5.0 Divine Soul Venerable also spoke to the Soul Messenger in a cold voice. Don't procrastinate there, hurry up and fight with me. After saying this, he also looked at the Soul Messenger indifferently. The Soul Envoy also snorted coldly after hearing the words of Venerable Shenhun. After that, he rushed forward at a fast pace, and then released his own strength. Advertisement. Chapter 448 The Majestic Power in the Body. Advertisement. With the concentration of power, the Soul Messenger also felt the majestic power in his body. Then he also stretched out his hand, pointed to Venerable Soul, and then said to Venerable Soul in a cold voice. Now my strength has also been greatly improved. Next, I will never be afraid of you, so you can fight with me. Quote. After saying these words, he also looked at Venerable Soul coldly. Venerable Shenhun also shook his head at this moment, and then said a big word. Then he fought with the Soul Messenger again, and the battle between the two was also extremely gorgeous. Monk is also very irritable watching from the sidelines, even if it is more gorgeous, it will delay 10 times. And just when Monk was about to make a move to help the Venerable Soul and destroy the Soul Envoy. The Venerable Soul was also an attack, so he knocked the Soul Messenger unconscious there. After finishing these, Venerable Soul also turned his head and looked at Monk seriously. I only heard him speaking forcefully to Monk at this time. Okay, I've knocked out the Soul Messenger now, and I'll leave it to you to deal with him. Advertisement. After finishing these words, Venerable Soul also retreated to Monk's side. Monk also nodded slightly at this time. Then, with a half smile, he looked at Charlotte Linlin and many others. Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and the others also frowned endlessly after hearing the words of Venerable Divine Soul. Then he also had the intention to retreat. And at this moment, Monk also spoke to Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others. You guys don't want to escape, I will never let you go easily. You'd better be honest with me and stay here. Quote. After saying this, he also looked at the people in front of him jokingly. Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others, you also looked at me, and I looked at yours, but didn't dare to speak again. Instead, he stood there without daring to move. And Monk also slowly approached the Soul Messenger. When he walked in front of the Soul Envoy, Monk also turned his head and asked the Soul Venerable. Advertisement. Now I want to ask you a question, and I don't know if you can answer it. After finishing these words, he also looked at Venerable Soul seriously. After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Divine Soul also nodded, and then spoke to Monk. If you have something to say, just say it, we have already cooperated, there is no need to hide it from me. Monk also smiled slightly after hearing the words of Venerable Soul. Then, after deliberating on his words, 813 spoke forcefully to Venerable Soul. I want to take the Soul Messenger as my subordinate, I don't know how you feel about it. After saying these words, he also looked at Venerable Soul with burning eyes. After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Soul was also slightly stunned. He didn't expect that Monk wanted to take the Soul Messenger under his command. After thinking for a while, he also nodded heavily. Then, facing Monk, he spoke forcefully. You don't need to discuss this matter with me, and I can't decide what the Soul Messenger thinks. Whoever he is willing to take refuge in, let him take refuge in whomever. Advertisement. Chapter 449 should agree. Advertisement. If you talk to him now, I think he should agree. After Monk heard the words of Venerable Soul, he also turned his head to look at the Soul Messenger who fell unconscious on the ground. Then he scratched his head, feeling a little dazed. At this time, Venerable Soul also saw Monk's doubts. Then he spoke to Monk forcefully. Don't worry, the Soul Messenger has already woken up. After I knocked him unconscious, it only took him a few seconds to break free from the coma. Now he is in a state of sobriety, but he has been pretending there all the time. Quote. After Monk heard these words of Venerable Spiritual Soul, he suddenly realized. Then he said coldly to the Soul Messenger lying on the ground. Don't pretend anymore, since Venerable Soul has already been broken, then if you continue to pretend, it will be a bit inappropriate. After finishing these words, he also waited for the Soul Messenger's answer. The Soul Messenger also stood up helplessly from the ground, and after spreading his hands, he spoke to Monk. Advertisement. Are you going to take me under your command? The two of us have had so many conflicts, and you want to subdue me without forgetting the past. This also confuses me very much. Monk also smiled slightly after hearing the words of the Soul Messenger. Then he spoke to the Soul Messenger. I don't mind that. As long as you are strong and promise to serve me after surrendering to me, I will subdue you. Quote. And I will treat you the same as other subordinates. But if you guys are still not ready to surrender, then I don't mind killing you. Quote. After saying this, he also looked at the Soul Messenger coldly. The Soul Messenger also sneered when he heard the words, and then said to Monk. Since you want to think about my acceptance as a subordinate, then you should find my real body and talk about it. After hearing the words of the Soul Messenger, Monk also froze in place immediately. Then he also looked at the Soul Messenger in front of him. Advertisement. It was found that the Soul Messenger in front of him was not a real person, it was clearly just a phantom. Then Monk also turned his head and looked at Venerable Soul. Venerable Shenhun was also a little embarrassed at this time, he also scratched the back of his head and said. Quote. Backquote no, I clearly watched this guy fall to the ground. And I also used my soul technique to block all the surrounding space. This Soul Messenger guy, it is impossible to escape, what is going on here? Monk was a little helpless when he heard Venerable Soul talking to himself, and then he spoke to Venerable Soul. Okay, this time it's time to give the Soul Messenger a chance. Next time, we must not let him jump into a sweat. Quote. After this Zhao sentence, Monk also turned his head and looked at Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others coldly. At this time, Monk also said to Charlotte Linlin and Kaido in a cold voice. Now that the Soul Envoys have escaped, if you still want to say something, say it quickly. Otherwise, there will be no last words left. Quote. After saying this, Monk also looked at Charlotte Linlin and others indifferently. Advertisement. Chapter 450. Advertisement. After hearing what Monk said, Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and the others froze in place immediately. Then after spreading his hands, he spoke to Monk. We have nothing to say, we just want to live, I don't know if you will be satisfied. After we finished speaking, Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others also looked at Monk with burning eyes. After hearing what they said, Monk looked at them with a half smile and didn't speak. At this time, Charlotte Linlin also rolled her eyes. Immediately after that, he knelt down on one knee, bowed his hands towards Monk and said. Master Monk, I am willing to serve you. Guarantee that after this, you will never have bad intentions, and please accept us as your subordinates. 590 Kaido and the red-haired duo followed suit, Deng even fell to his knees, wanting Monk to spare them. Monk also nodded in satisfaction at this time, and then spoke. That's right, those who know the current affairs are heroes, the three of you are quite decisive. That being the case, then the three of you should swallow these 3 pills. Advertisement. These 3 pills will not cause any harm to you. But if you want to betray me, I will definitely activate the power in this elixir and wipe you all out. Bob. After hearing what Monk said, Charlotte Linlin also stretched out her hand. Then he swallowed the pill that Monk gave him. Kaido and the red-haired duo are also in a hurry, imitating Charlotte Linlin's actions. After the 3 of them swallowed all the elixir, they followed Monk obediently. Monk was also very satisfied at this time, and then he also turned his head to look at Shinhun Zuni. Venerable Shensoul is still struggling with the problem just now. Monk was also very helpless, and said to Venerable Soul. Okay, let's let what happened just now pass. Let's reflect on it, and then promise that next time, the Soul Messenger will not be allowed to escape. After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Soul also heaved a long sigh. Advertisement. Although what Monk said made sense, he felt very unhappy in his heart. It is clear that I have already arranged all the arrangements. But the Soul Messenger ran away again, which really made Venerable Soul feel ashamed. Afterwards, Venerable Shenhun also returned to the Ghost Gate gang under the leadership of Monk. After arriving here, Monk also let Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others work in the Ghost gang. But he and the Venerable Soul began to search for the trace of the Soul Messenger. The Soul Messenger also showed his face before, so it is impossible for him to just disappear out of thin air. There is also a reason for wanting to leave, you can't just run away like that, without the assistance of any moves. Based on this analysis, Monk also asked the Venerable Soul. Haven't you learned some kind of strange moves? If I'm not wrong, this may be Venerable Soul, bringing forth new ideas from old ones. Use the previous moves, and then improve them, and develop the moves independently. After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Soul also frowned and thought for a moment, then nodded emphatically. Advertisement. Chapter 451. Moves learned. Advertisement. It finally occurred to him that he had indeed learned a certain move before. And this kind of move can also ensure that people can leave the place, and can also leave a phantom of themselves in the same place. After thinking of this point, he also hastily explained the general usage of this move to Monk. And also sighed. I really didn't expect the Soul Messenger to be so powerful. It's unbelievable that the old moves in the past have been improved by him. Monk also smiled slightly after hearing the words of Venerable Soul. Then he spoke to Venerable Soul. You don't need to praise the Soul Messenger anymore. Our first task now is to capture the Soul Messenger. Quote. In my opinion, the next Soul Messenger must surely die. Quote. There is no need for us to take him to heart. Now let's study carefully how to ensure that he is not allowed to escape. Then, he quickly attacked and killed him. Quote. Advertisement. And just when the Divine Soul Venerable and Monk were discussing how to deal with the Soul Messenger, the Soul Messenger also returned again, the Minister of the World Government. In his view, the most dangerous place is the safest place. And here Monk and others just searched, they certainly won't pay attention. With this in mind, the Soul Messenger also stayed in the world government. He also got into the secret room that he had created before after packing everything up. Then he hid in it and began to curse Monk and the second district of the Divine Soul. In his opinion, these two guys are heinous. After he had scolded enough, he also began to think about how to deal with these two people next. I can't just scold these two people to finish this matter. After he thought carefully for a while, he also slapped his thigh suddenly. Thinking about it, why don't I go find some treasures to improve my strength? Even if it is not used to improve strength, it can be used as a bomber. Like that kind of extremely powerful treasure, it only needs to be induced with force to make itself explode, and it can produce great power. Advertisement. 0 Looking for flowers. When the time comes, detonate all these treasures, regardless of whether it is a monk or a venerable soul. Even if the two of them add up, they won't be able to survive. After making up this idea, the Soul Envoy was also extremely happy, and then he began to prepare in a hurry. Monk and Venerable Soul are also unaware of this matter. The two of them thought that the Soul Messenger must be hiding in a dark place and recovering his strength. 0. So I have been looking for the trace of the Soul Messenger. But in the eyes of the two of them, the Soul Messenger seemed to have disappeared without a trace. Generally, no matter how hard they search, they can't find it, which makes Monk and the Venerable Soul very helpless. Simply after 5 days, the two of them stopped looking for it. They also see through it, no matter how hard they try, they still can't find it. As for the Soul Messenger, they also began to focus on the deeds of finding treasures. Just as the two sides were doing their own things, the gate of heaven suddenly opened. It was also left behind, many treasures of the vast universe. Advertisement. Chapter 452 The Treasure of the Vast Universe. Advertisement. The treasures in the vast universe are so much better than the treasures in the whole world, and once they come out, they attract everyone's attention. Monk also got the news. He also picked up the toothpick-like arrow in front of him, and placed it in front of Venerable Soul. Then he asked the Venerable Spiritual Soul. What do you think, Venerable Soul? Venerable Shenhun also smiled slightly after hearing Meng, 107, K's inquiry. Then he spoke to Monk. You have also tested the power of this toothpick-like arrow. This thing is extremely powerful, so why are we still hesitating? Hurry up and decide to snatch the treasure of the vast universe. Quote. After saying this, he also looked at Mengdu with burning eyes. After hearing the words of God and Soul Venerable, Monk also nodded slightly, and then spoke. Since that's the case, let's move out. Let's all start looking for treasures. Quote. Advertisement. In this way, the two began to search for treasures in the vast universe. They also forgot about the Soul Messenger. And the Soul Messenger is also extremely happy, because he also got several treasures from the vast universe. And on one of the treasures, there is also a record of the original location of the treasures of the vast universe. With this thing, he can find the location of the vast universe, and then take away all the treasures there. Now he is also beginning to yearn for the fact that he can keep all these treasures in his pocket. Then you can hurry and fight against Monk, Venerable Soul and others. At that time, these two people will definitely pay a painful price. After thinking of this, he couldn't help laughing out loud. Then this side also started to sneak around, left the world government, and then flew towards the distance. In that case, there will be no worries, and the treasures inside can be brought out more safely. If you come across a treasure, will you make the move or should I make the move? After hearing the words of Venerable Soul, Monk also spread his hands helplessly. Actually, I don't want to be nervous, but the treasures inside are really too precious. Advertisement. Then he replied to Monk. If it really doesn't work, the two of us go in together, isn't that all right? They have now investigated the location of the vast universe, but they are still not sure whether there is any danger in the vast universe. Okay, don't worry about it anymore. And Monk and Venerable Soul are also thinking about each other. Afterwards, he spoke forcefully to the Venerable Soul in front of him. After hearing what Monk said, Venerable Soul also shook his head helplessly. After saying this sentence, Monk also patted the shoulder of Venerable Soul. There are so many treasures in this vast universe, in my opinion, it should be extremely dangerous. 0. Then he spoke to Venerable Soul. I know you were a little nervous when you met those treasures in 3.6. But there is no need to be nervous to such an extent. Quote. Only at this time, Venerable Shensoul also asked Monk. Even if there are any powerful monsters inside, the two of us can destroy them together. Quote. Advertisement. Chapter 453. Hold it in your hand. Advertisement. If I don't get it, I really feel distressed. And you must cooperate with me. If the two of us cooperate well, we will let your things be taken away. After Monk heard the words of Venerable Soul, he also spoke to Venerable Soul. Don't worry about this, those treasures are not only greedy for you, but also for me. So, I will definitely do my best to ensure that all those treasures are brought out. Quote. You don't have to worry about it there, and then you can take a good rest. When I notify you to go, how about the two of us setting off again? Venerable Divine Soul nodded heavily after hearing Monk's words. Then he went back to his room to rest. As for Monk, he also turned his head to look at the warden, and then spoke to the warden. Warden, do you think it's time for all of us to go together? Or is it that I and the Venerable Soul will go alone? After Monk asked this sentence, he also looked at the warden seriously, waiting for the warden's answer. Advertisement. After hearing what Monk said, the warden spread his hands helplessly, and then said to Monk. In my opinion, you should still act together with Venerable Soul. There is no need to bring so many people. Quote. Bringing too many people will not only scare the snake away, but also cause some mistakes that shouldn't be made. There are too many people, so we won't go there with the two of you to cause trouble. Let the two of you go to the vast universe alone to deal with this matter. Quote. Monk nodded slightly after hearing what the warden said. Then facing the warden, Taguchi said, if that's the case, then you should take care of it and manage the underwater world well. The Soul Messenger also found the vast universe based on the map on the previous treasure. Venerable Shensoul had already rested, and was waiting for Mengshu to arrive. Then he assured Monk that he would never be negligent. The Soul Messenger was also extremely excited, he felt that he had fallen into a treasure house. Advertisement. After receiving the assurance from the warden, Monk nodded in satisfaction. Is this ready to go? 347. The warden didn't dare to bother Monk, he just watched Monk leave, and then went to work. After saying this, Monk also looked at the warden seriously. Then he entered the vast universe and saw the treasures accumulated in the vast universe and the planets. After hearing what Monk said, the warden patted himself on the chest heavily. And before the two arrived, because of the vast universe. On Monk's side, he also found the Venerable Soul. Afterwards, the two also walked together, heading towards the vast universe. When he saw Monk coming, he also hurriedly spoke to Monk. After that, he also found a room to rest, and he was also ready to recharge his batteries, and then he could set off. Moreover, there are no other people in this treasure house, and the things here are up to you to choose. Monk nodded again and again after hearing the words of Venerable Soul. When I get back, I don't want to find out that there is a problem here at Sea World. Quote. Advertisement. Chapter 454. The Lingering Guy. Advertisement. This made the Soul Messenger extremely happy. He also walked here for a few laps first, and then he suddenly thought of himself, and he couldn't continue like this. We must leave earlier with these treasures. Because in the next two guys, Monk and Venerable Soul, might come. Like these two lingering guys, they will definitely not miss the opportunity to find the treasure, so he must make a quick decision. After making up his mind, the Soul Messenger also took out a pocket from his waist. Then he opened the pocket and chanted a spell. The treasures in front were also attracted and entered the pockets of the Soul Messenger one after another. Then the Soul Envoy also looked around and found that although there were still some treasures left here. But there are no powerful treasures left, even if they are reserved for Monk and the Venerable Soul, it is nothing. Then he also hurriedly left here. Because he left in a hurry, a treasure he had taken before also fell to the ground. Just after a while, two more people appeared in the vast universe. Advertisement. These two people are Monk and Venerable Soul. At this time, the two of them saw the slightly empty and vast universe, and they were also extremely at a loss. Only at this time, Venerable Shensoul also asked Monk. Are you sure this is the vast universe? Why is this vast universe so empty? And the treasures inside are so rubbish. This can't be called a treasure at all, it's just an ordinary weapon. Quote. After saying this, Venerable Shenhun also stepped forward and grabbed a long knife. Then with a flick of his hand, the long knife also snapped off. Then he was also disgusted and threw it on the ground. At this time, Monk also frowned and pondered for a moment, then spoke forcefully. Don't complain about the treasures of the vast universe, because there have been people here. Before we came, someone took most of the treasures here, leave these treasures without power. Advertisement. After saying this, Monk also looked around, trying to find some clues. After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Divine Soul froze in place immediately, and then spoke to Monk. Quote. Backquote. No, we were the first to hear about it. And we are also one step ahead, getting more clues than others. How could anyone come here 10 steps ahead of us? Monk also shook his head after hearing the words of Venerable Spiritual Soul, and then spoke. There are people beyond people, and there is a sky beyond the sky. Someone must have obtained the map of the vast universe directly by mistake. Quote. Okay, let's stop worrying about this matter, hurry up Qian Wangzhou, and look for clues. We probably don't want to take the treasures in here, because they are useless. After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Soul also nodded solemnly. Afterwards, the two of them also began to search here. After searching for a while, Venerable Soul also spoke loudly to Monk. Monk, come here, I found something. Advertisement. Chapter 455 Quick Dodge. Advertisement. After Monk heard the words of Venerable Soul, he quickly dodged and came in front of Venerable Soul. Afterwards, he looked at Venerable Soul seriously, and asked Venerable Soul. Come on, tell me what's going on. After finishing these words, he also waited for Venerable Soul's answer. After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Soul also smiled slightly. Then he took out the treasure like an inkstone, and then said to Monk. Just now, I accidentally tripped over him. Then I picked it up and observed it, and I also discovered the map on this inkstone treasure. Quote. And after careful investigation, I found that this material has the 867 breath of the Soul Messenger. If you guessed correctly, the person who came here to take the treasure away should be the Soul Messenger. Quote. Monk frowned instantly after hearing the words of Venerable Spiritual Soul, and then spoke. I didn't expect it to be this guy again. If I knew it was this guy, I should have killed him long ago. Advertisement. Keeping him all the time is also a scourge, which is really helpless. Quote. After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Divine Soul smiled helplessly, and then spoke to Monk. Who would have thought that the Soul Messenger would come here suddenly? We've been looking for him and can't find him. But when looking for the treasure, it was really interesting to find his clues. Monk also smiled helplessly after hearing the words of Venerable Soul. Then he also frowned and pondered for a moment, then he spoke to Venerable Soul. Since that's the case, the two of us will follow these clues to find the Soul Messenger. Anyway, there are some treasures in the Soul Messenger. Our previous purpose was to kill the Soul Messenger. Quote. Now as long as you find the Soul Messenger, you can achieve both goals. Being able to kill him and get many treasures at the same time, why not do it? After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Soul Bob also grinned, and then spoke. So, what are we waiting for here? Advertisement. Let's go now. Quote. After these words were finished, Monk and Venerable Soul were also ready, and then rushed to the distance. Soon, the two left Tianmen. Then he began to search along the aura above the treasure, trying to find the trace of the Soul Messenger. At this time, the Soul Messenger also fled to a very hidden mountain range. He knew that he could no longer continue, staying in the world government. If they continue to stay there, Monk and the Venerable Soul will probably go there to search again. At that time, he will inevitably die. So he prepared to stay in another place, where the Soul Messenger also felt that it was very safe. There is no shop in front of the village, no one comes here at all. Even the animals are pitifully few, and I don't know what kind of dangerous place this is, and there is no sound of birds chirping. But even so, the Soul Messenger is extremely happy. Because this shows that he can stay here forever without revealing his whereabouts. Advertisement. Chapter 456 Building a Wooden House. Advertisement. Then he also relied on his own strength to build a wooden house here. Then he began to focus on using the treasures in front of him to start doing research. The research he is doing now is to let the power of these treasures quickly gather on him, so as to improve his strength. No matter how powerful the explosion of these treasures is, they are still not as powerful as their own, good. So he was going to try it out, and then started research. With his continuous research, he did not get any results, because these treasures are also extremely unstable. Because they want to mobilize the power in the treasures, these treasures will suddenly explode. The Soul Envoy was also blown out many times before he realized that he had repented, and then began to change the direction of his research. That is to increase the explosive power of these treasures. Only in that way can it be guaranteed that they will have the upper hand when Monk and Venerable Spiritual Soul arrive. After making up his mind, he also began to study continuously. After searching for a period of time, Monk and the Venerable Soul also found that the breath of the Soul Messenger had disappeared. This made the two of them very helpless. Advertisement. Monk also stood there quietly for a long time, while Venerable Soul was at the side, also looking around. Then he asked Monk, next, shall we continue to search? Since the clue is broken, then we might as well go back and stay for a while. Let's see if there is any chance to find the trace of the Soul Messenger. After saying this, he also looked at Monk seriously. Monk frowned after hearing the words of Venerable Soul, and then nodded heavily. There is no other way at this moment, and I can only wash my clothes and leave. In this way, after a period of time passed, the warden found Monk in a hurry. Then he also turned around and started to deal with this matter in a hurry. After returning to the underwater world, Monk also called the warden to him. Before the warden asked, Monk and the first one spoke to the warden. 0 for flowers. Advertisement. Then the two returned to the underwater world again. Let me take care of the files and put everything else on hold first, so don't deal with it blindly. In fact, he is not all right, but since there is no way to find the Soul Messenger, then he might as well rest for a while. After hearing Monk's words, the warden nodded heavily. Monk has nothing to do here. Next, you just send someone to investigate this guy who is the trace of the Soul Messenger. When the Soul Messenger is found, there is still time to attack the Soul Messenger. After saying this, Monk also looked at the warden seriously. Not only did it take away many treasures from the vast universe, but it also hid them in an extremely concealed manner. Quote. Your main responsibility now is to find him and give me his news. Monk was also extremely happy when he saw the warden, and then asked the warden B. No matter how serious you are, no matter how much you want to find the soul messenger. But the clue was broken, no matter how hard the two tried, they couldn't find the soul messenger. Advertisement. Chapter 457. The Trail of the Soul Messenger. Advertisement. What's wrong? Have you found the trace of the soul messenger? After hearing Monk's words, the warden also waved his hand. Then he spoke to Monk forcefully. Although I haven't found his real location, I have learned some news by following the clues. 17. After hearing what the warden said, Monk stretched out his hand, and then said to the 840 warden. Tell me quickly what's going on. Don't be long-winded, and quickly use simple and clear words to tell me the cause and effect of the matter. Quote. After saying this, he also looked at the warden seriously. After hearing Monk's words, the warden nodded slightly. Then he also spoke forcefully to Monk in front of him. In the previous time, I also found out through investigation. The soul messenger, after you besieged him, returned to the world government again. After living in the world government for a while, he left. Advertisement. While leaving, you and Venerable Soul went to Tianmen, wanting to find treasures in the vast universe. But you two also returned empty-handed, and after that, we also investigated. The soul messenger guy, after getting the treasure of the vast universe. So he put on a black suit and hurried to the mountains. Since then, there has been no movement of him. After hearing the report from the warden, Monk thought for a while. After that, he nodded lightly, and said to Venerable Soul. Are you sure that your news is accurate? After hearing what Monk said, the warden also nodded heavily. Monk was also extremely happy when he saw this, and then he also spoke forcefully to the warden. Since that's the case, then go and call Venerable Soul for me, and say that I have something important to discuss with him. After hearing Monk's words, the warden also nodded, then turned around and left. In a short time, he also arrived outside the residence of Venerable Soul. After waiting for Venerable Soul, the warden knocked on the door. 0. Advertisement. After hearing the knock on the door, Venerable Shenhun also got up slowly and walked to the door. After opening the door, he also looked out suspiciously. Then he saw the warden. In this way, he also looked at the warden with a puzzled face, and asked suspiciously. Warden, what do you want me to do? After hearing Venerable Shenhun's inquiry, the warden also considered his words carefully. Then he spoke forcefully to Venerable Spiritual Soul. Master Monk wants to find you, and asks you to discuss it with him. After saying this, he also stepped back, and then stretched out his hand towards the door to signal 2.0. Venerable Shensoul's eyes widened immediately after hearing what the warden said. He already guessed what Monk was going to tell him. Then he happily found Monk under the leadership of the warden. After Monk saw the arrival of the Venerable Soul, he also spoke to the Venerable Soul. My people have been found, the trail of the soul messenger. Advertisement. Chapter 458 Finding the Soul Messenger. Advertisement. Next, don't come with me, go find the soul messenger. After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Soul was also extremely happy, and then he opened his mouth to answer. It's better to obey than to respect. In this way, the two also embarked on the road to find the soul messenger. And the soul messenger is also under constant testing. Finally, the method of triggering the explosion of the weapon has been thoroughly studied. Now he can guarantee that as long as these treasures can be detonated, all of them will be detonated. Then Monk and the Venerable Soul will definitely die. After thinking of this, he also laughed out loud. But at this moment, a cold voice came into the 10 ears of the soul messenger. Soul messenger, what are you thinking of? Why are you so secretive? At this moment, the soul envoy also froze immediately. Then he turned his head to look at the monk in the distance, and the Venerable Soul. Then he said to the two of them in a cold voice. Advertisement. What are you two doing here? Haven't I disappeared for a long time? This also shows that I don't want to conflict with you anymore. Why do you want to kill them all? After saying this, he also roared at Monk. At this time, Monk couldn't help but smiled mockingly, and then spoke to the soul messenger. You don't conflict with us, isn't it because of your lack of strength that you can only reluctantly cease the war? If you are stronger than the two of us, you will never let go of such a good opportunity. I don't know if I'm right. After saying this, he also smiled coldly. Venerable Divine Soul was on the side, and he also spoke to the soul messenger. The soul envoy snorted coldly after hearing the words of Monk and Venerable Soul. It seems that if 070 doesn't do it today, it will be impossible for the soul messenger to have a long memory. Stop quarreling, both of you, and go to bed together. You two guys are full of bullshit, not 10 sentences are true. Advertisement. Soul envoy, don't be obsessed with your obsession any longer, and hand over all those treasures. You two don't need to persuade me, I will never believe you. K also spread his hands at this time, and then he spoke to Venerable Soul. Do you do it, or do I do it? After hearing the words of Venerable Soul and Monk, the soul envoy also said in a cold voice. Because in the past, he had already studied the way to activate the explosion of those treasures. After saying this, he also waved his hands towards Monk and Venerable Spiritual Soul, signaling them to get out of the way. After saying this, he also looked at the soul messenger seriously. After saying this, he also looked at Monk and Venerable Soul with disdain. I can kill both of you. Quote. In that case, the two monks will spare you your death. So I won't trust you, you should go where you came from. Quote. Therefore, in his view, monk and venerable soul are nothing more than two lambs at the mercy of others. At that time, you can surrender to monk, so you don't have to worry about danger anymore. Quote. Advertisement. Chapter 459 Killing it easily. Advertisement. I can kill them both easily. Venerable soul and monk also looked at each other, and they could see the shock in each other's eyes. I only heard that monk was also asking the venerable soul at this time. What did the soul messenger get? If you lose your mind, you can't even beat one of us. How dare he be so rampant now, wanting to fight against the two of us? I really don't know how he stopped. After hearing monk's words, venerable divine soul did not speak. But he still doesn't believe in the strength of the soul messenger. At this time, the soul messenger also felt that he was insulted. Then he pointed at monk and the celestial dragons and said in a cold voice. If you two can't do one against two, don't question me. I will definitely be able to kill both of you. Quote. After saying this, he also looked at monk and venerable soul viciously. Venerable soul and monk also sighed helplessly after hearing the words of the soul envoy. Advertisement. I only heard monk speaking to venerable soul at this time. You don't need to take action, I want to teach myself a lesson, this blind guy. I want to let him know what it means to be beyond others. Quote. And let him know that he shouldn't mess with the two of us. Let him know the price of messing with the two of us. Quote. After this sentence was finished, monk also walked forward slowly, and came to the front of the soul messenger. The soul messenger also snorted coldly after seeing monk coming. Then he put on a fighting stance and looked at monk with burning eyes. Monk also rushed forward without saying a word, and then punched out, trying to kill the soul messenger. The soul messenger also dodged in a hurry, dodging monk's punch. Then the whole person hollow, and then let monk attack there. Afterwards, he also escaped the opponent's attack, and after the long sword fell to the ground, it also exploded. Then he hurriedly backed out, a long distance away. Monk didn't pay much attention at first. God Jiao. Advertisement. Instead, he threw the long sword away. Why do you still have wings? Quote. What is your thing? When the long sword flew into the air, it also began to flap its wings and rushed towards monk still. The strange shapes of these treasure bombs are all caused by the original appearance of those treasures. Then he slowly reached his waist and took out the treasure bomb that had been made. And his hand slowly turned into a solid body. Can it fly or not? Then he was also suspicious, and asked the soul messenger. But when he felt the energy fluctuations coming from above the long sword, monk also frowned instantly. After hearing monk's words, the soul messenger didn't bother to talk to monk either. Monk couldn't help being stunned when he saw that the soul messenger took out a long sword with wings. The soul messenger is just adding some devices on top of these things. A deep hole was also blasted out of the ground. After seeing this scene, monk couldn't help shrinking his pupils, and then looked at the soul messenger in shock. Advertisement. Chapter 460. Advertisement. At this time, the soul messenger also crossed his arms and said to monk jokingly. Now I know I'm afraid, but it's useless, I have plenty of this kind of treasure. I can be without fighting you too. Using these treasures alone can make you die without a place to bury you. Quote. After hearing the words of the soul messenger, monk also wanted to refute. But when he saw the pothole created by the explosion of the weapon, he also became quiet. While monk was meditating, venerable soul also came forward and patted monk on the shoulder. Then he spoke to monk forcefully. It's still up to me here. After monk heard the words of venerable soul, he hurriedly said 150 to venerable soul. His treasures may have come from the vast universe. And this guy didn't know how he did it, but he was able to make all these things explode. It's not appropriate for you to go so hastily. Quote. After hearing monk's words, venerable soul also smiled slightly, and then answered. Advertisement. Don't worry, I know soul art, if the situation is not good, I will hollow myself. In that case, no matter if it's an explosion or something, it won't be able to hit me. Quote. After hearing these words from venerable Shenhun, monk also suddenly realized. Then he spoke to venerable soul. If that's the case, next, you can arrange this matter, and I will support you from the rear. After saying this, he also nodded earnestly towards venerable soul. Venerable Shenhun also smiled in satisfaction, then turned his head and looked at the soul envoy seriously. The soul messenger couldn't help but mocked. I thought you were always hiding behind monk and not showing up. I didn't expect you to make a move, it's really interesting. Quote. Venerable Shenhun also snorted coldly when he heard the words of the soul envoy. Afterwards, the two also looked forward with burning eyes. Since there are two people working together, then the soul messenger will never have a chance to escape. After these words were finished, the soul messenger also threw treasures out one after another. Advertisement. At this time, the soul messenger also taunted the two of them. At this time, don't think about fairness and injustice anymore. Together, the two of us will definitely be able to kill him. If you are not afraid of death, you can come and give it a try. Quote. At this time, venerable soul was completely relieved. Let me tell you the truth, there is no way you can defeat me. But at this moment, monk also stepped forward, and then spoke to venerable soul. From his point of view, venerable Shensoul is just talking too much. I also made some manipulations specifically for the soul. Oh, by the way, there is something I want to tell you. These weapons have an effect on the soul during the explosion process. Forget it, you and I should join forces together. I will definitely let you two die without a place to bury you. Quote. After saying this sentence, Monk also patted the shoulder of Venerable Soul. Don't think that you two will be able to cause any harm to me together. Venerable Soul also nodded seriously after hearing what Monk said. Advertisement. Chapter 461 Continuous Dodging. Advertisement. Monk and Celestial Dragons also dodged again and again. The two of them will not be stupid enough to meet each other's explosive treasures. Now that they have seen the power produced by the explosion of the treasure, there is no need to meet it head on. Or think about using other methods to kill the soul messenger. In this way, the two sides also launched a battle, and a series of explosions were heard. Dozens of potholes also appeared in front of the soul messenger. These potholes were all blown out by the soul messenger with those treasures. He was extremely happy when he threw those treasures wantonly before. But slowly, he also realized a problem. No matter how many treasures he throws, he can't make Monk and the two of them cause damage. So if that's the case, why throw them away? While the soul envoy was thinking, Monk also spoke softly to the soul venerable. Let's hurry up and try our best, we can't let him go on like this. No matter how you say those treasures, he can't let him waste them like this, we still have to take them back. Advertisement. After hearing what Monk said, Venerable Soul also nodded heavily. Afterwards, the two also rushed forward quickly, and arrived in front of the soul messenger. Then one of them threw a punch and hit the temples of the soul envoys respectively. The eyes of the soul envoy were also instantly bloodshot, and then the whole person fell to the ground with a plop, not knowing whether he was alive or dead. And Monk also spoke to Venerable Soul. Come on, let's leave the soul messenger alone. Put all those treasures in the bag first, and then deal with the matter of the soul messenger. Venerable Soul also nodded after hearing what Monk said. Then he also entered the cave where the soul messenger stored treasures. After entering here, Monk and Venerable Soul were also stunned by the glittering golden scene here. They also did not expect that the soul messenger would take away so many treasures. He also hurriedly patted the shoulder of Venerable Soul, and said to Venerable Soul. Ask for flowers. The soul messenger was also awakened by the pain. Advertisement. After he woke up, he also looked at Monk and Venerable Soul. Soon, the two put away all the treasures in the cave. If the soul messenger is waking up, he might cause these treasures to explode. After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Soul also nodded repeatedly. Then he also understood his own situation. Monk also snapped his fingers lightly, and then used his strength to condense a rope. Monk also reacted quickly. After saying this, Monk walked forward slowly. Then began to collect these treasures with Monk. Then he walked out of the cave slowly and came to the soul messenger. Then, he tied up the soul messenger with a rope, and then slapped the soul messenger on the face. At this time, the two of them also froze in place. Don't be in a daze there, the two of us should hurry up and get these treasures in our pockets. At that time, not only will the two of us not be able to take away the treasure, but we may also die here. This is really too incredible. Advertisement. Chapter 462. Advertisement. At this moment, he was also speaking to Monk and Venerable Soul in a cold voice. Since I have been captured by you, then it's up to you to kill or cut as you please, I won't struggle anymore. Quote. After saying this, the soul envoy also turned his head away, and stopped looking at Monk and Venerable Soul. Monk and Venerable Soul were also slightly stunned after hearing the words of the soul messenger, May 13th. I only heard that Monk was also asking the Venerable Soul at this time. When you got along before, was the soul messenger also so stubborn? After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Soul also smiled slightly, and then nodded lightly. Monk was also very helpless when he saw this, and then he said to the soul messenger in a cold voice. Now you don't want to die, I will give you a chance now, let you choose. You have a chance to survive, but you must ensure that you surrender to me. And if you don't want to surrender to me, then I can only kill you, so let's make a choice now. After saying this sentence, Monk also waited for the soul messenger's answer. Advertisement. After hearing Monk's words, the soul envoy was also slightly stunned. Then after shaking his head, he said coldly to Monk and Venerable Soul. Rather stick to your guns. Even if I die, I will not submit to you two guys. Quote. After saying this, he also snorted coldly. After hearing the words of the soul messenger, Monk also smiled coldly. Then he stretched out his hand to grab it, and in the void, he also grabbed a long knife. Then he put the long knife on the neck of the soul messenger, and then said to the soul messenger in a cold voice. Now you make a choice. Feeling the coldness of the blade, the soul messenger is still not afraid. I only heard him continue to speak to Monk at this time. In that case, we can save a lot of trouble. Quote. Venerable Divine Soul was also a little appalled by Monk, and then asked Monk. After hearing these words from Venerable Spiritual Soul, Monk said helplessly. Advertisement. Are you so cruel to let him die? And this guy also thinks that we dare not kill him, that's why he is so rampant. After saying this sentence, Monk also looked at Venerable Soul, waiting for Venerable Soul's answer. Anyway, this guy is useless, it's better to kill Lee. After Monk heard the words of Venerable Spiritual Soul, he couldn't help but turned his head suspiciously. This guy is useless anyway, it is better to kill him. Quote. This guy just made up his mind to fight against us. Quote. After saying this, he also snorted coldly, feeling how great he is. If you have the guts, kill me. Anyway, I'm not afraid of you at all. What you said is very reasonable, but no matter what this guy says, it has something to do with you. What's wrong, is what I said wrong. Oh 5. Okay, stop talking to him, and kill him quickly. Then he looked at Venerable Soul. Venerable Divine Soul was at the side, also looking very helpless, and then said to Monk. Advertisement. 460th chapter's helpless sigh. Advertisement. After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Soul also sighed helplessly. Then he replied to Mang. Before, I really regarded her as an old friend. But this guy didn't take me seriously, and I persuaded him in every possible way, but he didn't listen. So, whether he lives or dies has nothing to do with me. And this guy still insists on confronting me, since there is nothing wrong with killing him like this. After saying this, he also nodded towards Monk. Monk also turned his head after hearing the words of Venerable Soul, and then looked at the Soul Messenger. The Soul Envoy was also a little flustered at this moment, he was indeed a little rampant just now. But that was only based on the fact that Monk and Venerable Soul didn't dare to kill him, that's why he was so rampant. But if the two were really going to kill him, he would be a little flustered and at a loss. Then he also spoke to Monk. If I say now that I surrender, can you let me go? After hearing the words of the Soul Messenger, Monk almost laughed out loud. Advertisement. Then he said helplessly to the Soul Messenger. I advised you just now, but you refused to listen. At this time, I started to change my mind again, and wanted to beg for mercy from me. It was really wishful thinking. Now even if you kneel down to the ground, it's too late to beg me for mercy, and I won't keep my hand anymore. Quote. After saying this, Monk also walked forward slowly, and then punched the Soul Messenger on the forehead. The Soul Messenger was also stunned there immediately, and then fell to the ground with a crash. His agile eyes also lost their vitality at this moment. To be on the safe side, Monk was also a sword finger, stabbing the heart of the Soul Messenger. The Soul Messenger also died at this point, and Monk also turned his head slowly, and then looked at Venerable Soul. Then he flicked it lightly, and the flame flew towards the corpse of the Soul Messenger. It's not interesting to leave anyway, it's better to follow you back to the underwater world. After finishing these, the two of them can also go to the underwater world. Monk was also very happy after hearing the words of Venerable Soul. Advertisement. Venerable Soul was also puzzled, so he asked Monk. What's the matter with you? After the flame touched the Soul Messenger's body, it burned the Soul Messenger into a mass of ashes in an instant. There have been many things during this period of time, and they have been more fulfilling, which makes me feel very interesting to follow you. 603 inches. What's wrong? After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Soul also frowned and pondered for a moment. Are you going to go to the underwater world with me or are you leaving alone? I want to ask you, what are your plans for the future? Monk heard Venerable Soul's inquiry, and hurriedly said to Venerable Soul. It's nothing. Before leaving, Venerable Soul also flicked his fingers, and then a small ball of flame appeared on his fingertips. Then he spoke to Monk forcefully. After returning to the underwater world, Monk also arranged a management position for Venerable Soul. Afterwards, he also invited the Venerable Soul to return to the underwater world together. Advertisement. Chapter 464. Eat and wait to die. Advertisement. Venerable Shenhun also refused in every possible way. In his opinion, he is still fine, and it is better to eat here and wait for death. Call him when there is a battle, that is a more comfortable life. It would be inappropriate to start arranging and handling this matter at this time. But he couldn't hold back Monk's strict demands, which made him feel very helpless. Then he reluctantly accepted. In this way, Venerable Soul also stayed in this underwater world. And Monk also poured all the treasures he had taken from the Soul Messenger into his room. Then start sorting them into categories. And at this time, the warden also found Monk. When he opened the door and saw those treasures, his eyeballs almost flew out of their sockets. After he regained his composure a little bit, he also spoke to Monk in disbelief. Master Monk, is this the treasure you took from the Soul Messenger? After hearing the warden's question, Monk nodded slightly, and then spoke. You are right, all these treasures were taken from the Soul Messenger. Advertisement. In fact, this is not the Soul Messenger. Because the Soul Envoy was also obtained from Tianmen, and now he is also dead. Quote. These treasures of the vast universe are unowned, so it is only natural for me to bring them. Don't be too shocked. Oh, by the way, you will help me now to sort out these treasures. Leave those powerful treasures and put them in the underwater world. Then pick another batch and let the people at the Ghost Gate take them away. And the remaining treasures that are slightly weaker or even have no power are all distributed to the common people. Let them use it to ensure that these treasures are in their hands and can be used to their full potential. Quote. After saying this, Monk also smiled slightly at the warden. Attracted many robbers to loot the people. Master Monk, in my opinion, this matter is unnecessary at all. I heard that you are going to hand over many treasures to the common people, have you lost your mind? Then he was also in a hurry to arrange this matter. Advertisement. If that's the case, something is wrong. Quote. Because these treasures are handed over to those common people, the common people will not use them. Monk also smiled slightly after watching the warden leave. Quote. Don't worry about this, I'm standing there. And although these treasures are poor, they still have certain power. Quote. If anyone dares to make trouble, then I will let him come and go. Quote. After hearing what Monk said, the warden froze in place. I only heard that he was also asking Monk at this time. After hearing what the warden said, Monk waved his hands, and then spoke to the warden. In a short time, Venerable Soul also found Monk. After saying this, Monk also patted his chest suddenly, very confident in him. After hearing the words of Monk's Yajao, the warden thought for a while, then nodded emphatically. Then he said to Monk with a shocked face. As the so-called wealth touches people's hearts, it is likely that after we hand over these treasures to the people. Advertisement. Chapter 465. Venerable Soul. Advertisement. Monk also waved his hand after hearing the words of Venerable Soul, and then spoke. I just gave away those treasures with relatively weak power. Those more powerful ones left me alone. Quote. Venerable Soul also heaved a sigh of relief after hearing Monk's words. Then he said helplessly to Monk. I thought you were out of your mind, you be asterisk 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 d. All the treasures that were taken away from the Soul Messenger were handed over to the people. It turned out that they were only given to the weaker ones, so I felt relieved. Quote. Okay, I won't talk to you anymore, I still have some things to deal with. After the processing is finished, I am going to go to the Ghost Gate gang to take a look. I heard that the Gimmon 173 gang needs someone to lead, and I feel that I can do it. Quote. Monk also burst out laughing after hearing the words of Venerable Soul. Venerable Spirit Soul also didn't know why, and then asked Monk suspiciously. What are you laughing at? Advertisement. Am I not right? Monk also nodded lightly after hearing the words of Venerable Soul, and then spoke. You are indeed right, but when you were in the past, didn't you very much resist being a manager? How can you take the initiative to take over the power of the Ghost Gate gang at this time? After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Soul also sighed helplessly. Then he replied to Monk. I'm not even going to be a manager. Isn't it just letting you forcefully pull me to be the manager of this underwater world? I also got used to it in the last few days, and decided to focus on management. Quote. Anyway, those who manage the underwater world, some things are also management, and the management of the Ghost Gang is also management. The power of the Ghost Gate Gang is slightly greater, and they should do their best to do what they want. So we are going to go to my place to have a look, and you should stop teasing me. Quote. After saying these words, Venerable Soul also turned around and left. Advertisement. Monk also smiled slightly, bad B, after watching Venerable Spiritual Soul leave. Although just now Monk has been talking and laughing with Venerable Soul. But when he heard that Venerable Soul is going to take over the Ghost Gang Monk, he immediately became vigilant. He was afraid that the two fellows, the Divine Soul Venerable and the Celestial Dragons, would make the same move. So, he hurried back to the Ghost Gate Gang. After returning to the Gimmon Gang, many strong men of the Gimmon Gang bowed their hands to Monk. Monk also smiled indifferently, and then called several management personnel of the Ghost Gate Gang into the office. The crowd quickly gathered in front of Monk, waiting for Monk's order with puzzled faces. Monk nodded in satisfaction when he saw that everyone had arrived. After deliberating his words, he spoke forcefully. Everyone, how do you feel about this Ghost Gang recently? After saying this, Monk also stared at the management personnel with burning eyes. After these people heard Monk's inquiry, he also hurriedly nodded to assure that there was nothing wrong with these things in the Ghost Gate Gang. They will also handle any details, not daring to make any mistakes. Advertisement. Chapter 466. The matter has not been resolved. Advertisement. Monk nodded in satisfaction after hearing this, and then spoke. I have one more thing here that I want you to solve. After hearing Monk's words, everyone patted their chests and assured Monk. They will definitely complete it with due diligence. Monk also smiled in relief, and then spoke more forcefully. Next, Venerable Shenhun is going to take over the Ghost Gate Gang. I hope you guys will have a longer memory. Don't let the Divine Soul Masters be the same as the Celestial Dragons. If the Divine Soul Venerable is the same as the Celestial Dragons, recruiting you. If you want to collude with him, I don't mind killing all of you. After saying this, Monk also smiled coldly. After hearing Monk's words, the management personnel of the Ghost Gate Gang were also terrified. Afterwards, they hurriedly patted their chests to assure Monk that they were loyal to Monk. No matter how many people come, they will not surrender to each other. Monk nodded in satisfaction when he heard the words, and then spoke. I hope so. Anyway, you should think about what to do. Advertisement. I don't look at the process but only the result. At that time, if I find out who is very close to this guy, Venerable Soul, and give him advice. If I become his confidant, I will be the first to take this person down. Hope you guys don't make me do it myself. Quote. After saying this, Monk also smiled coldly. Then he waved his hand, motioning for all the management members of the Ghost Gate Gang to leave. Everyone in the Ghost Gate Gang also left here in a hurry. They didn't remember anything else when they came here, they only remembered the fact that they couldn't get in touch with Venerable Soul. In fact, Monk also considered too much. Even if Monk didn't come here to tell these people, they wouldn't do anything out of the ordinary. Since the Celestial Dragons happened last time, these people also have a long memory. They have secretly made up their minds that they will not listen to those temporary leaders. Absolutely will listen to Monk's arrangement. And this time Monk came here and said such words to them, which made them even more nervous. When this place appeared, it was silent. Venerable Shenhun didn't know what was going on, so he didn't ask much. Advertisement. Then he turned around and left here dead. One by one is also extremely vigilant, and they are also extremely serious in doing things. After that, he continued to stay here to manage everything in this ghost gang. He has been in this world for so long, and he has never heard of such a place. After half a month passed, Monk also discovered an extremely dangerous place. He is quite happy here. Time passed by like this. Zero looking for flowers. Afterwards, Monk was ready to go there to find out. Monk realized something was wrong when he heard the report from the spies of the Ghost Gate gang. The Venerable Soul is also a little helpless for Monk not to ask so much. After Venerable Shenhun arrived at the Gimin gang, he also found that the people here were extremely indifferent. But he didn't complain too much about Monk, since he was allowed to manage the Ghost gang. And all the houses above the position where it appeared, even the living beings were absorbed into it. Point 0. Monk saw that the Venerable Soul was there to help, and it was rare for him to relax. Advertisement. Chapter 467 Extremely Dangerous Place. Advertisement. Found that Monk wanted to see that extremely dangerous place. Venerable Shenhun also volunteered, and immediately stretched out his hand to stop Monk. Monk felt a little helpless when he saw Venerable Shenhun blocking him. Then he spoke to Venerable Soul. That place is very dangerous, and I have no problem going there by myself. Even if I disappear there, you can still manage the Ghost Gate gang here. 997. If you have two people going together, if we are all in that dangerous place accidentally, it will be a bit bad. When the time comes, there will be no one to manage the Ghost Gate gang, but there will be some major issues. Quote. After finishing this sentence, Monk looked at Venerable Soul seriously, wanting to consider it carefully with Venerable Soul. Thereby dispelling the idea of going there with myself to investigate. But Venerable Soul waved his hand, and said to Monk with righteous words. What's dangerous there? You just want to take me there to have a look. Don't worry, I will never go near that dangerous place. I just take a look outside, if there is any danger, I will turn around and leave immediately. Advertisement. Even if you accidentally fell into that dangerous area. I will also save you after preparing a way to save you, and I will definitely not make any moves. Quote. After saying these words, Venerable Soul also patted his chest. Seeing that he couldn't persuade Venerable Soul, Monk sighed helplessly. Then he spoke to Venerable Soul. Okay, this is what you said, and you must act according to what you said when you get there. Never say one thing and do another. Quote. Hearing what Monk said, Venerable Soul was also a little helpless. After he rolled his eyes, he spoke to Monk. Oh, by the way, there are still some things I haven't dealt with here, you wait for me for a while, I will come as soon as I go. After finishing these words, Venerable Soul left here. The role of space wormholes is to connect many worlds. The power of this space wormhole is indeed somewhat extraordinary, but if it is said that he is absolutely dangerous, it is a bit too exaggerated. If I'm not mistaken, the thing in front of me should be called a space power supply. Advertisement. So Monk believes that the Venerable Soul may know what this thing is. After hearing Monk's words 4.6, Venerable Soul also broke away from the dazed state. I only heard that Monk was also asking the Venerable Soul at this time. After saying this sentence, Monk looked at Venerable Soul seriously, waiting for Venerable Soul's answer. He hadn't seen this kind of Uzumaki. After a short time, Venerable Shenhun came back again. If that's the case, tell me, what kind of existence is this? Just like that, the two left the Ghost Gate gang together and headed towards that extremely dangerous place. Because Venerable Soul's expression at this time was a bit weird. Honorable Soul, you must know what this thing is, right? Even if I have seen it, it is above the sea, and I have never seen it in space. Afterwards, Monk turned his head to look at Venerable Soul. Monk looked at the Uzumaki who kept turning back and forth in front of him, and he was also a little puzzled. 0. When they arrived at the very dangerous place that was advertised by others, the two of them were also stunned. After pondering for a while, he spoke to Monk. Advertisement. Chapter 468 is unstable. Advertisement. And it is unstable in the process of connection, just like opening a door in a world. This gate may be connected to a fairyland where birds and flowers are fragrant, or it may be connected to a hell with many demons inside. Quote. If you are lucky, you can enter a more beautiful fairyland through the space wormhole. And it is very likely to get some treasures from there. Those who are a little less lucky are likely to fall into extremely dangerous dangers. Having said that, he also paused for a moment, showing a bitter smile. After seeing Venerable Shenhun's bitter smile, Monk also asked meaningfully to Venerable Shenhun. You won't just enter here to eat, and live through the loss of this space wormhole. Hearing what Monk said, Venerable Shenhun also nodded helplessly. Then he spoke to Monk. That's right, in the past, I also entered an extremely beautiful world through a space wormhole. And the people there are very strong. But after I figured out the mysteries of that world, I also learned an extremely terrifying news. Quote. Advertisement. After I heard the news, I prepared to leave. But I never thought that the people there would chase me and try to kill me. Quote. When Monk heard the words of Venerable Soul, he hurriedly urged Venerable Soul to tell the so-called secret to him. Venerable Shenhun also let out a long sigh when he heard the words, and then lowered his voice and said to Monk. The people there are all monsters, and they are all transformed from monsters. That's why the people there don't want this kind of thing to spread. Otherwise, they would have no way to pray. Quote. After hearing the words of Venerable Soul, Monk also nodded slightly. Seeing Monk's lack of interest, Venerable Shenhun didn't say any more. He thought Monk would be very interested in this matter. After staring at the space wormhole for a while, Monk spoke to Venerable Soul. Since you know the situation of space wormholes, can you tell me about them? How to get rid of this space wormhole? Keeping him here will also threaten the lives of the people. Quote. Advertisement. After finishing these words, Monk looked at Venerable Soul seriously. After hearing Monk's words, Venerable Soul also spread his hands helplessly. Then he replied to Monk's opening. If I had a way, I would have already done it when I told you these words again. Why drag on here for so long, talking nonsense? After hearing the words of Venerable Soul, Monk also heaved a long sigh. 500 Since the Venerable Spirit and Soul can't solve the space wormhole, then there is nothing to do on my side. Afterwards, Monk spoke to Venerable Soul. In this case, let's leave first, after we have settled the underwater world and the ghost gang. The two of us come here again to explore. Quote. Hearing what Monk said, Venerable Soul also nodded repeatedly. Then the two quickly separated. Monk went to the underwater world, and Master Shenhun went to the ghost gang. After Venerable Soul had settled everything properly, he began to wait for Monk's arrival. Advertisement. 460th X Doubts. Advertisement. After Monk returned to the underwater world, he immediately found the warden. After the warden saw Monk coming, he was also extremely puzzled. In the past, he had also communicated with the top level of the Ghost Gate gang. Because he wanted to find Monk for something. However, the senior management of the Ghost Gate gang made it clear that Monk was not in the Ghost Gate gang, but went to deal with outside affairs. So the warden didn't bother Monk anymore. But unexpectedly, Monk, who went out to deal with things, came to the underwater world. Seeing the shocked look on the warden's face, Monk couldn't help raising his eyebrows. Then he asked the warden suspiciously. Warden, you are shocked by my arrival. Tell me, what are you shocked by? After saying this, Monk waited for the warden's answer. After hearing Monk's words, the warden quickly responded. After deliberating his words, he answered to Monk. Advertisement. In the past, I had contacted the top management of the Ghost Gate gang. The other party said that you went to deal with things outside. As soon as I guessed, I knew that you must have gone to deal with that dangerous place. So when I saw you coming, I also felt a little incredible. I didn't expect you to come here. Monk also smiled when he heard the words, then restrained his smile, and said to the warden with a serious face. Next, Venerable Soul and I are going to go to the space wormhole for you to take a look. Probably won't be back for a long time. During this period of time, the underwater world needs to be managed by yourself. And it is not possible to make mistakes in the management here. If something goes wrong, I will punish you. Quote. After hearing what the other party said, the warden also hurriedly nodded. After patting his chest, he replied to Monk. Master Monk, don't worry, I have managed the underwater world for such a long time. I already know the situation here like the back of my hand. Advertisement. So, you can go away boldly, I will definitely manage the underwater world well. Meng nodded in satisfaction after hearing the warden's assurance. After saying goodbye to the warden, he left here in a hurry. Watching Monk leave, the warden began to deal with the underwater world. As for Monk, he returned to the front of the space wormhole again. Venerable Shenhun didn't hear from Monk for a long time, so he sent someone to investigate Monk's traces. When someone came back and reported to him that Monk was near the space wormhole, Venerable Shenhun also felt very speechless. Then he hurried to the side of Monk. Seeing Monk standing there upright, Venerable Soul also said to Monk helplessly. Quote. Backquote. I good thing thought you would go back to the ghost gang and tell me. Unexpectedly, you came here in a hurry without even saying hello. Quote. Hearing Venerable Soul's complaint, Monk also shook his head, and then spoke to Venerable Soul. I thought you knew me well, so I didn't go to say hello to you. Well, let's not waste any more time on this matter. Now prepare to enter the space wormhole. Quote. Advertisement.